The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're coming to you live from a house and from other people's houses because that's where we are. I am always so grateful to be here, and I think especially on Monday mornings because I know it probably looks like we just wing this and just do this off the cuff, but it takes a lot of preparation, and that's not the fun part. This is the fun part, getting to be here with you guys. So I'm always glad when I hear that music play, and it makes me grateful to know that we get to be here for the next hour, you and me and everybody else. And we get to be talking about autism in a 360-degree perspective and hopefully giving you information and inspiration. That's what we're all about here. And please don't expect me to be a mind reader. If you're not seeing what you need here, ask questions. And there's lots of different ways to do that, just like there's lots of different ways to watch the show. So let's go over those ways. If you're watching us live right now, you're probably watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, or you might be watching us on Twitter, Periscope, or you could be watching us on our homepage, autism-live.com. I think there's even places, other people's web pages that have embedded us. We're good with that. Hey, if you want for your business, if you want to be able to embed so that when we're live, that it plays on your business's website, let me know. We can make that happen. But if you want to watch us recorded, that's another kettle of fish, right? So there are lots of places that you can do that, including all the places that I just mentioned. The recorded show plays there, but then on top of that, you can download the free, it's a free download on iTunes. You can download either the video or the audio or both, right? And you can also be listening to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Deezer, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but we'll think of it. And we're getting ready to come to you on a couple of different more platforms that are launching in the fall. But again, if there's some place that you watch your podcasts or that you feel like, you know, it would be convenient if you were here, let me know. We're happy to work that out with you. If we're not there right now, it's one of two reasons. Either it is not free to the viewer or we don't know about it because we can't know everything. So help us out. And by the way, while we're speaking of help us out, if you are at all inclined to share, create a watch party, like us on Facebook, please leave reviews on iTunes. Those things all help other people to be able to find the show and to be able to use the resources that we try to bring you. All right, sound like a good plan? I always like to remind you at the start of the show that we have a lot of experts that are here on the show, and I'm not one of them. My credentials to be here, I'm funny when I can manage it. I'm a former teacher, and I am a very proud mom of an individual who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. We got the very best of resources, and we are so grateful. Oh, so grateful. Can't even tell you how daily grateful I am. But I made a bargain a long time ago, said, please help me to help my child. And I promise if talking to, the God of my understanding, and said, help me to help my child. And if you do, I promise I will turn around and help whoever I can. So that's why I'm here, doing my time, paying down some karma and loving it. If you are feeling like you are alone on this planet, I'm throwing my virtual arms around you and saying, come on, you are not alone. And by the way, our show is for the larger autism community that starts, of course, with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. Of course, they are the beating heart of this group of people. But we include in that group in the larger autism group, everyone who loves those individuals. So, if you think about it, if you're here, you have credentials to be here, right? Whether you're a mom, a dad, a brother, sister, brother-in-law, husband, wife, teacher, practitioner, you love somebody on the autism spectrum. We hope that we're here for you and want to listen to what you have to say. And we want to listen to what that loved one has to say. And hopefully, again, give that information and inspiration. Hey, I'm saying hello to Michelle, who already wrote in. How are you? It's good to see you here. Please feel free to write in right now, especially on Facebook and YouTube, and we will try to be as responsive as quick as we possibly can. So I am so, as I said, excited to be here. In a little while, we're going to be joined by one of our regular experts. Now is a very scary time for a lot of people in the autism community as we get ready to go back to school in all the different ways that there are to go back to school. And so in just a little while, we're going to be joined by Bonnie Yates, who's a special education attorney, and she helps us to sort through some of that stuff. I didn't get any questions from you guys last week for Bonnie, so if you have questions about school or legal, make sure you're writing in right now. Hey, Kirsten, we're so excited that you're here. She said, you are the best at spreading that karma. I am not the best, but I'm working on it. I'm paying that karmic debt down. Okay. So, but thrilled that you're here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Because this, for me, the interactive part of it, somebody said, why do you do live? Like, why not just record? Well, I love this element of it. It's very exciting and anything could go wrong at any moment. And it does. And it does from time to time. And that's why I said, I'm funny and I have a sense of humor. That's why I needed that credential for when the poo hits the fan, as they say. Okay, so on Mondays, we like to start the show with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nani are those experts talking about, and why do we need to learn these terms? Now, we go over terms on a regular basis, and you guys have been asking us for some new terms, and I can't find where the list of things that hello, Margaret. Hi, Parker. I can't find the list where you guys asked for certain terms. So do me a favor, if you have terms that you want us to define, like you're like, they keep saying this over and I don't know what it means, Shannon. Let me know. I'll find out what it means, because sometimes I don't know what it means either. But we do have some new jargon slated for the next week, and it's in a category of things which starts our jargon off for the week. Reinforcement schedule. I don't know what that sounds like to me. It sounds like whenever they used to say reinforcement to me, I always thought they meant like rebar, like the stuff on a bridge that you put in so it reinforces the structure and makes it strong. Took me a while to figure out what they were talking about. So a reinforcement schedule sounds like somebody's going to lay rebar to me. That is not what it is, although it's adjacent, right? Because we do want to make something stronger, right? And we want to do it on a regular basis. So let's take a look at what reinforcement schedule is. First, we're going to give you the actual definition, and whenever possible, I try to make fun of it because we all need a hobby. Reinforcement schedule, a schedule of reinforcement. Ta-da! Well, now they've cleared that up for me. A schedule of reinforcement that systematically thins each successive reinforcement. Just keep pounding. Don't change the words. Just keep throwing the same ones at us. Thins each successive reinforcement opportunity independent of the participant's behavior by using arithmetic algorithms or geometric progressions to determine which responses obtain reinforcement. Well, you know what? If I think that reinforcement is rebar, this definition is completely useful to me. Really useful, right? Because how many times do they say reinforcement here? A reinforcement schedule is a schedule of reinforcement. Well, my work here is done, right? This is why we have to do. And then I don't know about you, but as a parent of a child and on the spectrum, and somebody says, well, we're going to talk about your reinforcement schedule. And then they start talking about arithmetic algorithms and geometric progressions. What the heck? So useless to me. Let's go on to our working definition here and see if we can't make heads or tails out of this thing. Okay, so reinforcement schedule is not giving, look, there's the word again. Not giving reinforcement every time, but deciding to give it mindfully to keep targeted behaviors continuing. All right. Sometimes the working definition is not that much better. So let's talk about what reinforcement is, because this can be a little bit tricky. A reinforcement is a reward, that much is true, but it's a reward that actually makes something happen. So a lot of times we're guessing what's reinforcing, and that's okay, as long as we're checking in with the individual to see what they want. So, you can do this with very small babies. We've talked about this before. We do a preference assessment and we set up 3 stuffed animals, and, we see that the baby picks up the bunny. Okay, and now we play with the bunny for a second. We take the bunny back and we rearrange the order. So now the bunny is on the end where before it was on the middle, and we see, does the child still go for the bunny? And they do. Great. We rearrange them again and we put it on the other end, and the baby still goes for the bunny. Now, our supposition here is, our thought process is, the baby likes the bunny right now. Right now, the baby is into the bunny and wants to play with the bunny because they didn't switch no matter where it was. Okay, we're stretching it a little bit, but we've checked in and the baby likes the bunny. Great. So now we're going to do something and with the child to teach them something. And when they give a response that we are encouraging, not necessarily even the right response, but in a response we're encouraging, we're going to reward them with the bunny. And if we see that they're learning more because of the bunny, then we know that the bunny is a reinforcer right now. It's important to say right now because sometimes the things that you find reinforcing change based on your mood, based on the time of day, based on how much you've had of it, right? So it's really important that we are reinforcing individuals for doing hard work. Think about it. What do you get reinforced for at work? And it's not just one thing. You get a paycheck. Woo, that's a good thing, right? But there are other ways that you get reinforcement too. Like your boss says, great job. You did really well with that, right? And for some people, that's enough to keep you coming back for a paycheck that's not as rewarding as it should be, right? So it's only reinforcing if it actually is keeping a behavior happening. So as we start in the beginning and we give a lot of reinforcement, and then we start to change it a little bit. So we're going to be talking over the next 2 weeks. Our jargon is going to cover reinforcement schedule and types of reinforcement. So in the beginning, though, when you're teaching something, you're giving reinforcement a lot. But then we start to look at, how do we want to be mindful about this? When are we going to give reinforcement? When are we not going to give reinforcement? Parents get all tweaked about this. Why should I give my child a reward for cleaning they should just want to clean their room. Well, who wants to clean their room, first of all, right? Or they should just want to be polite to someone. That's great. And we want to work towards that. But most people don't do something unless it's reinforcing. I like to tell the story for my son. There was a time when we were working on a safety protocol. And the beginning of the safety protocol, before you can even teach what's safe, you got to teach them who to go to if something happens. So it was on our schedule to go to visit. First, I had to take pictures of all of the stores that we went to. So like there was a picture of Trader Joe's, and there was a picture of Target, right? And they helped him to identify, that those were places that we go to. Then we went to those stores and he had to find the workers there and figure out what, like at Target, the workers wear tan khaki pants and a red shirt, and they have a name tag. And that's how you know that they're a worker. Well, that's different than the Trader Joe's people. Trader Joe's, they wear big Hawaiian shirts and a name tag, right? So he really keyed into the name tag thing. and was, because they were like, how can you find the worker here, right? And by the way, they generalized with him, to, so that we went to places that we had never discussed before, and they would say to him, hey, who are the workers here? And he would, go, oh, I think, it's them. And it was somebody who was wearing a white shirt with black pants, so he didn't get the idea that, it's always a red shirt with khaki pants, right? But one of the things that he noticed was that a lot of times workers had a name tag, and he was learning how to read at the same time. And so he would just sort of read out loud and go, Betty, when he would see the name tag, right? And that was just him identifying, oh, okay, this is the worker. Well, whenever he was this cute little boy, and whenever he would see somebody's name and say their name, people orient to you and they look at you and they go, hi. And when you're cute, they do a big, and sometimes they give you a lollipop, and so he learned, oh, when you look at somebody's name tag and say their name, people like it, and you get things because they like it. To this day, I mean, he's this big, tall, bushy haired, bearded man now. But he probably doesn't even remember this, but it's ingrained in him when we used to go places. We don't go anywhere anymore, but he would see people and he'd say, hi, Doug, how you doing today? Reading their name tag. And Doug would always be like, doing well, sir, doing well. And my son finds that still reinforcing because he got a great reaction from it. So, sometimes we start something and it's reinforcing and we don't know why it's reinforcing. But if there's something pleasurable about it, most things that have something pleasurable will become reinforcing and they will encourage a behavior to stick in. So for parents who are freaked out about like, why do I constantly have to be giving my child a paycheck? This is going to start to help you to feel a little bit better about it, because after a period of time, we no longer, my son's not getting the lollipop anymore, right? But it's still reinforcing. It's socially reinforcing. In the beginning, most things weren't socially reinforcing, but they are now. So we start to be mindful about when are we giving the reward, how often are we doing it, and we have a schedule. And there's all different kinds of schedules. Don't panic. We're going to go over them in the next couple of weeks, but I just want you to know that there is a reinforcement schedule. And life is good when you're getting reinforced appropriately for the things that you're doing. Isn't that the best? Don't we all need that? Are you all on a reinforcement schedule? When was the last time you reinforced yourselves for doing the things that you do? Because I know you guys are working hard. So overwhelmingly proud of all of you. Hey, Margaret. Hey, Jacinda. Oh, how cool. Okay, so Jacinda's driving while listening. That's wonderful. Just be safe. Hi, Minaksha. I hope I said that right. Looking to see who else. So glad that you guys are here. Okay, let's move on to our question of the day to see what that's all about. Question of the day. What is your favorite way to spend downtime, and has it changed in COVID? So, what is the way that, because I've been talking to a lot of parents, you guys, and as well as a lot of adults on the autism spectrum who are feeling some stress right now, right? Whether it's because you're going back to work or going back to school, or something in the schedule is changing right now. And believe me, I think a lot of people are like, come on, bring the change on, but the change isn't quite what we ordered up, right? We're all having to get back to some sort of modified existence, right? So, but everybody I've been talking to, I've been saying, but what are you doing for your downtime? What's the big reinforcer for you? And that when you got 10 minutes to yourself, and sometimes it's only 10 minutes, right? What are you doing with that time? Are you, squandering it? Because sometimes squandering it is exactly what you need to do, is just sit and be, and with your tongue stuck out watching television. That's okay. We're in this emergency, right? It's okay to take downtime that way. But what are you doing with your downtime? Let's be mindful about it at least. And I would think, I'm going to guess that for a lot of you, it's changed during COVID. The things that I used to do with my downtime and the things that I do with my downtime now are completely not related. I used to spend so much time in my car, and I would be listening to NPR. And right before the pandemic, I got Sirius, is it XFM, Sirius XF, where you get all these different channels, and was listening to all this different stuff. And now my new car is sitting on the driveway, a very expensive paperweight, because it has not been driven in like, I don't know, it doesn't even start anymore. I have to get it jumped. That's a whole other Oprah. But I used to listen to the radio a lot and listen to different news programs. And now I feel bad. I love NPR, but I barely listen to it. And now I do different things with my time. And now I'm spending time on the treadmill and listening to different things and watching different programs. So what are you guys doing with your downtime, and how has it changed? Okay, so like a preferred task. I'm not sure which thing you were talking about, Kirsten, which part of the conversation I missed when you wrote that in. Mine is to eat at my favorite restaurant. It changed when the lockdown happened, but I felt so happy when I ordered takeout all on my own. That's awesome. Yeah, we were late to the takeout thing, but we do it once a week. We get takeout now. And, I know for my husband and my son, it's just like, oh, the angels singing when they get takeout, which is probably a reflection of my cooking. So I think, they're a little bit sick about it. I don't know. Oh, somebody said, love your videos. Thank you. I don't know. Somebody said, hi, Pooja Sharma. I don't know what that means. Is that somebody's name? I'm not sure. Somebody says 6-year-old, it's him and others, and beaches head against the wall, frustrated because he can't go back to school, lives in Florida. Yeah, okay, so somebody who is beating their head against the wall, we really got to look at that, and we got to look at that quick, right? Because that's something that can cause permanent damage. My son was somebody who hit his head against the kitchen floor. And it's so unsettling. So really want to recommend that you talk to an expert like today and figure out the function of the behavior. And we can't just assume, right? Because sometimes kids hit their head against the wall because they have a headache, and that momentary hit it relieves the headache for a second, and that's enough to keep them doing it. Other times they beat their head against the wall for attention because I can't get what I want. I want to be able to do something. I can't get you to listen to me, so I'm going to beat my head against the wall because I know for sure you're going to pay attention to that, right? So, and sometimes that goes hand in hand with access to someone or something. My son I would ask him to do something and he would hit it. He would just throw himself. I called it the Gandhi maneuver, civil disobedience, throw himself on the floor and start whacking his head against the kitchen floor. And he would only get like 2 or 3 hits in because I would come running, screaming, and I would pick him up and I would hold him and I would rub his head. And then I would give him a sippy cup of lemonade and so, his favorite thing to eat. And we would sit in the big comfy rocking chair and I would rock him and I would sing to him and talk to him and rub his head. And I could not figure out why he kept hitting his head. It's just highly irregular. But in his mind, it was, she's going to force me to do something, or I can whack my head twice and then I get a half an hour of the best. Mom's going to hug me, hold me, give me lemonade. Woohoo, right? And he was willing to sacrifice hitting his head so that he could get that amount of attention from me. Now, do we beat ourselves up about that? No, you just learn better. And once I learned, okay, that's what's going on, and learned how to not give that to him and get through the tantrum that he threw when I didn't give it to him, our lives changed. So I really, 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 really want you to reach out today and get some help, expert help here. Somebody says, for downtime, I like to breathe and reflect what I need to do next work. Work requested me to teach at school while my students distance learning at home. My boys are distance learning at home. Big dilemma. Yeah. Have you asked the school if you can teach from home? I know a lot of teachers that are going through really difficult times, and what I'm hearing is that districts are dealing with stuff case by case, and that some are being really tough and saying you cannot be responsible for teaching your students and taking care of your kiddos at home. And that's why they're forcing people into the classroom. And, you know, I don't know. Like, I just feel for you folks. I don't know what to tell you except to ask. Um, you know, some districts are being really good about it. And one of our viewers has said, for you writing in about the hitting the head against the wall, it's self-injurious behavior and go to a doctor immediately. Yes, I completely agree. It's not the kind of thing to mess around with, because you can do permanent damage fairly quickly by hitting your head. Okay, thank you, Kirsten, for clarifying. Using a preferred task as a reinforcement, like tablet time. Absolutely. Coloring, going outside. School was using his tablet to get him to do OT tasks, but it's not working for me. And, you know, that's why we do the preference assessment about what is going, because it has to be. I love that Dr. Granpichet always talks about it has to be fair. So, you know, if you're wanting me to do a big task and you only give me a little reward, even though this might be rewarding enough for something else, if this is a big task, it's not going to be enough for me. And doing OT at school is so vastly different than doing OT at home. So I would look at what the OT is that you're doing, and I would go on Pinterest and see, is there a funner way to do whatever the thing is you're doing? Like, sometimes OT stuff they give you, it's very dry and boring, but there's almost always a play version of it that is not dry and boring. I love me some OTs, and if you get the right OT, man, they're fun people and they know how to have fun with kids. Okay, moving on here. But by the way, I love the breathe and reflect, what I need to do. That's a really good thing. We all need to be doing a little bit of that today. Moving on. Our topic this week, I love the little curtain effect. If it's not fun, what's the point? Doesn't that kind of go hand in hand with what we've been talking about? This is it. This is not a rehearsal. This is our lives, your life, my life, our kiddos' lives, our teenagers' lives. This is it. Even with COVID, this is it. And we can slog through today. We absolutely can. That's available if you'd like to choose that from the drop-down menu, or we could try to have fun. And my question to you this week, if it's not fun, what's the point? So I would love it if all of us, myself included, took a second today to say, how can I make today really fun? Our brains are these amazing, super powered computers, and they are positive assumptive when you ask a positive assumptive question. Because if you say, what could I do to make something fun today? It's going to come up with an answer. Well, I guess I could do this. Whereas if you say to your computer brain, you know, doesn't today really bite? Then your brain is going to go, yes, it does. And here's all the reasons why it does. So I think we have to make it fun for us. We have to make it fun for everybody in our lives, because this is the only day that we are going to get that's today. And nothing is guaranteed for anybody. So we need to have fun. I will tell you that when we started ABA, and once I figured out, oh, okay, this is how this works. And I was I always say it was like a horn on my head. I was like, we got to get these hours. We got to figure out how we have the funding for it. We got to. And I forgot that we needed to have fun. And a great, in fact, it was Dr. Jonathan Tarbox who said to me, you know, it has to be fun. It has to be fun, Shannon, because this is the only time he's going to be this age. And I literally made a sign that said, Jem will never be this age again. And it was on my computer. And I would look at it every single day. And let me just tell you, it flies by. It flies by. And all the things that we're worried about morph and change into other things that we become worried about. So I hope, if you are within the sound of my voice, that you ask yourself, how could I make it fun today? How can I make, even if it's like, how can I make lunch fun? How can I make the next 5 minutes fun? What could we do today that would be fun? Whatever the question is that you have to ask yourself, if you fold in 1 hour, 1 minute, 10 minutes of fun today, it will change the next few hours. And if you do it on a regular basis, I think it improves our health. I don't want to overstate, but you know, These are the choices. We could slog through or have fun. I choose, let's have fun. What do you choose? I think it should be fun. And we have to make it fun for our kiddos. We are asking them to do work and to learn things and to come into a world that is riddled with anxiety. If we are not making it fun, what on earth are we doing? I ask you. Okay, so having said all that, as I said before, our guest today is the fabulous Bonnie Yates. I don't think that she is here with us, but I could be mistaken. She is a special education attorney who is with the law firm of, it's the Tollner Law Firm. And we're thrilled that we have, is she here with us?
The short version is you can push her buttons. Anyway, more later. I gotta go.
Hey, we're hearing you. So sorry, Bonnie, we were hearing just the tail end of that. But I was waxing poetic about you. I was saying that Bonnie is with the Tollner.
Why would you
Law
ever do
Offices.
that?
Because you're fabulous, and I always tell people how fabulous you are. So I was saying that you're a special education attorney here in Southern California, but the Tollner Law Offices are all throughout the state of California.
Yeah, this is causing some confusion, so let me just explain.
Okay.
Tollner Law Offices was based in San Jose, but through an interesting convergence of various circumstances, we've been able to expand to more areas. So we have one attorney, Amanda O'Neill, who's also licensed in Arizona. So that means if you have an Arizona special ed problem or an estate planning issue, because she does that too, you can talk to her. Another attorney of ours that was based in San Jose decided to move to Nevada, and he's taken the Nevada bar. So he's licensed in Nevada, but he's also covering all those areas in California now that are sort of, on the eastern side of California, where it hasn't historically been that easy to get representation. I am based in El Segundo, California, and our other attorney is based in the Irvine area. But you should also just know that for the foreseeable future, I'm guessing it's going to be for at least the next 6 months and possibly longer, all the work we're doing is virtual. Like we made the decision within the last, 4 months that we felt like it was better for our clients to meet with us virtually and be able to actually see our faces and interact with us than to have to be in a room with them where maybe they're super distracted because they're worried about getting sick and everybody's wearing masks. And, so we're not working, in a brick and mortar way right now. So basically what that's allowed us to do is we can work anywhere in California where people need help. And we're going to try to continue that because historically people in Central California have had very poor representation. People in Southern California down by the border, same issue. And then, you've got everything sort of north of San Francisco falls off the map too. There aren't too many lawyers that service, let's say, Sacramento, Davis, and so on. So, that's why when people see San Jose, they shouldn't be, I had somebody who said, how could you possibly tell me about Las Virgenes Unified School District if you're based in San Jose? And I was glad she said that because,
yeah, because you know a lot about Las Virgenes.
Well, the point was really just that she wasn't understanding that I wasn't in San Jose. So I'm not in San Jose, but I do have a lot of info to share with you.
Yay. Yay, because we didn't have questions this week. So I think everybody's on pause as they go back to school to see how everything is going to play out. So I'm glad that you have a lot of stuff to cover. Yeah, go for it, Bonnie.
I do have a lot of stuff. I'm just pulling it up right now.
And we didn't quite give the disclaimer about if you're not in California.
No, we didn't. And now I can't find my email to myself. Okay, that's all right. The disclaimer is that if you're in California and you have a specific problem and you want to talk to us about it, can you give us a call and we'll set up a consultation with you. And those consultations typically take at least an hour. If you're outside of California, we recommend you to copaa.net, which is an attorney advocacy organization. And I think you can find good people there. I have a question, Shannon. Can I look at, this is like a very untechnical question. Can I look at a document on my screen and still be visible?
Yes, you can.
Without losing the Zoom?
Yep, just don't close it. You can shrink us and you can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
So you see the up at the top where you have the dash, the box and the X, hit the dash.
Okay. Okay, very good.
And now you can see whatever you want to see. And we can still see you.
Okay. What I'm wanting to read to everybody is a couple things that I pulled off of LRP this morning that I thought were so germane to stuff we've been talking about. One thing was about school psychologists. What was the other thing about? If I can't find it though, I'm gonna really feel like an idiot, but I'll talk about something else.
Well, don't bother doing that. We have so much that we could talk about. I think that a lot of folks went back to school last week here in California, some are going back this week. And even the people that I know that are the farthest out are going back in 2.5 weeks. So it's all happening right now. And thus far, I've only talked to one person whose child is going back full in person. And even they are having social distancing. So no one is going back to anything that feels normal, rational, or regular.
Well, I can talk about that too. I can talk more generally about what all that means, but why can't I open? Boy, is it just going to be like a star-crossed day where I can't read what I want to read to you?
Well, you keep looking, I'll keep talking.
Let me do something else then.
Okay.
Solve it later. What I had in addition was some comments that I made on Friday to a group of psychologists who see lots of kids, young kids with autism and other disabilities. And they had a lot of questions that I thought were probably useful to go over on the air again with everybody. Okay. And then I'll send those other things later because they're good. Okay, what is the district's legal obligation during COVID regarding assessments for initial eligibility, assessments for continuing eligibility, student records, and IEEs? So that was our first question. So in a general way, whatever you're offered as a distance learning policy is not, or distance learning plan, I should say, is not FAPE. It's not expected to be FAPE. It's not to take the place of FAPE. However, it is supposed to, according to the federal government, be the district making its best effort to implement the IEP as closely as they can. So if you have a very minimal distance learning plan and there's no face-to-face, well, virtual, but in real-time face-to-face interaction with teachers that covers most of your school day, the question is why are they able to offer such a small amount of coverage? Because they're supposed to be doing the best they can to try to implement the IEP as closely as possible, understanding that they're not going to be able to implement it in the same way that they would if school were open. But that doesn't, just because school isn't open doesn't mean you can't provide speech therapy services. Just because school isn't open doesn't mean you can't provide, specialized academic instruction, right? You have to do it in a different way. You have to think about it. But, all the colleges aren't going out of business, at least yet, and saying we can't teach virtually. So in terms of assessments for initial eligibility, some districts are taking the position that school is closed and that even if school is quote unquote open for the purpose of doing distance learning, it's not open within the meaning of the IDEA, wherein you have to assess, assuming it's not summer vacation. But we are getting some,
go ahead.
We are getting some districts saying they don't have to do this If you're in California and the district is telling you they don't have to do an assessment for initial eligibility or continuing eligibility, or they don't have to do IEEs, or they don't have to give you student records within 45 days, which is the federal timeline. The state is 5 business days. They're saying they can't make that. My remedy for all of this is a state complaint, because the California Department of Education will get involved. I mean, they have done so far when my clients have asked them to. And I think that they're concerned about people not getting assessed, about districts getting very backlogged, et cetera. So, so for those things, if you aren't getting what you need from your district, either your assessment for initial or continuing eligibility, student records that you request, or a response to a request for an independent educational evaluation, or a response that says we can't do IEEs because school's closed, I would go straight to CDE with that. So, you know, that's,
Also CDE is again?
I'm sorry, California Department of Education.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's sort of the first little piece of business. So, you know, the second little piece of business, I think, is collecting all the communications that you had with the district during school closure and all the communications they sent you, and creating a permanent record of that in case you end up doing a future case against them for compensatory education. That could take a lot of different forms. We could be saying not only was the program that my child had from March 15th until the end of the school year inadequate, but also the programming even before school closed was also deficient. And so district, you're on the hook for comp ed, compensatory education, to make up for my whole year where I really didn't get what, you know, I needed for my child. So when school's in session, they're going to be keeping documents in a manner that's familiar to lawyers, and we sort of know what to look for and, you know, what tree to shake. But I think a lot of us are feeling uncomfortable because all of a sudden stuff is happening at home and it's not really documented and we can't see it and there aren't logs of it. So you got to keep really good records on what your student did get. If it's too late to do that, you're going to have to do it now. You know, you're going to have to create that data now. So I talked to a couple and they said that they'd had a very bad experience during school closure. Their son didn't respond well to distance learning, and they were going to take him out and put him in private school. And I said, fine, let's take a look at what you have from last semester. They sent me all their emails. Well, there are about 25 or more emails from the district communicating with them during school closure, maybe 50. And they wrote like 3 emails, and they were all very perfunctory and nice, no hint of any problem. So I came back and I said, you can't place your child in a private school now if you want tuition reimbursement. You're going to have to enroll them in the district program for 2 months now and take much better data and figure out what is actually not working for him. And then you can move him, but it's dangerous to move him if you don't do so with that kind of try and fail data. So that's,
well, let's all try to learn from that. Let's all try to take really good data, make sure that if there's the slightest thing going on, that we're emailing the school and the district and making them aware of the difficulties that we're having. What else should we be doing? Should we be journaling?
You should be keeping daily logs of all of the services and how he did and what grades he got. You should have like the equivalent of like the daily schedule plus whatever work was generated, how much of the day was actually covered by what the district offered up, how much you had to cover, all of that stuff.
And you know what? I hear all of you going, oh man, like I don't have enough to do right now and I'm underwater. And I got to tell you, I think that what Bonnie's saying is so important for all of us, because we've talked about, you know, how important it is to have a schedule for our kids and to give them a visual schedule. I think it's also important for us. We've all stressed about this since March about our kids getting a good enough education. The time it takes you to keep all of this in line will also help you to keep things on track, so that you'll be noticing, is this working? Do we need more? And it's going to help you in the long run to get your child exactly what they need. Now, Bonnie, we got a couple of comments here. Somebody wrote in and said, in Saraland, Alabama, they are already in school, but social distancing. A mini outbreak happened at the high school there. So we'll have to keep posted on that. Somebody else says, when is it mandatory for the school district to set up IEPs? Nothing has been scheduled yet. In SoCal, school starts the 24th. Shouldn't these have been done over the summer? I have asked when it would be. All I was told was that they are still training staff on new programs that are meant for the SPED students, not just Zoom this time.
Well, the question is, when did you ask for the IEP meeting? And if you haven't asked for it, if you asked before school closed, they have to do it within the first 30 days of September. If you're just asking for it now, it'll be more or less the same time frame. But I mean, I've already said on the show that certain districts said they were doing IEPs for all their kids in September. I think a lot of districts are shining that on, but I'm thinking long and hard in every case I have about why, if I don't think I need to do an IEP, why is that? So I think if you feel like you need an IEP, irrespective of when they're going to do it, you know, write them a letter, tell them why it's necessary, tell them why it can't wait, tell them the bad things that happened during school closure that you're trying to rectify before the school year gets off to a bad start. That's what I'm recommending. Now,
I think we all sort of hoped, Bonnie, that they were going to spend the summer and get their ducks in a row. Yeah. And I think there's disappointment all around that, you know, I think everybody was still sort of straddling the fence and not knowing. We've heard of school districts that had a plan last week that they were going to go back with masks, and this week they've decided to do distance learning. Mm-hmm. It's just slightly better than it was in March when they had 24 hours notice that mm-hmm. they were going to be doing distance learning. It's hard as a parent, and I'm sure it's so hard for the teachers. I'm hearing from teachers all over the place about their fear of their lives. That they don't have a clear directive about where and when they're teaching. It's a mess already.
Let me say something that I think might even be slightly balanced in terms of perspective. Okay. I am very disappointed, and I think the districts could have done better during school closure, and I think that they still should. But I also think that there's a legitimate health and safety consideration that we're also trying to balance. And, you know, as somebody who's married to a teacher who's older and has had some health problems, I've been very concerned about him going back on campus.
Yes, so, but I agree with you. I think a lot of us thought they should have spent the summer figuring out.
I don't know what they spent the summer doing. I think that people in special ed are so overwhelmed and burnt out all the time that maybe even though they wanted to use their downtime productively, maybe they just couldn't. I don't know. The point is, this is going to be a slog, and we're going to have to slog our way through it. And if you want something different than is being served up to you know, the nice people that just take what they're given, you're going to have to individualize, and you're going to have to do a case to get your comp ed. It's that simple. They're not going to hand it to you. It's very obvious. If that were going to happen, it would have happened by now.
And she wrote back in and said she requested the IEP 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well, they haven't 2 weeks. They get 30 days. They have to hold it within 30 days, assuming that it's asked for during school being open, right?
But you said with your first comment that some of the pushback is that they're saying if the school is only doing distance learning, that they're not counting that as the school being
That's
open.
The position that an attorney in Northern California is taking.
Wow.
I don't think that's true across the board, because I had an IEP last week and I have one this week. They are taking attendance this year. So be aware that, you know, that one of the ways they're going to fight back is say, well, you were never there. How can you be complaining about it? Also, if you're having a problem with, you know, given your technology set up or the way your child learns or anything else, if you're having trouble accessing the assignments through the computer, ask for what's called a non-digital learning packet. Ask them to provide you. I mean, that's old school, but you know, important to mention. There's no consistent policy on whether districts are going to do virtual testing. There's no policy yet on whether they're going to allow Zoom observations as classroom observations. That's all got to sort of flesh itself out. The other thing that some parents are doing, it's just worth you knowing this, is they're actually going to their insurance in California and saying, I'm not getting my school hours. This is really bad. My child is regressing. Here's my regression data. I need more ABA hours. I need you to cover my school day as well. So those are some.
And are they getting traction? That's the big question.
We're just starting.
Yeah.
We don't know. I mean, I've
Keep
got
us
one.
posted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this person did all the right things. She got a letter from her pediatrician. She got a letter from her behavioral agency. She got a letter from an outside psychologist documenting the regression. I'm told that you have to show that the failure to provide the service for the insurance side of things is that you can show kind of irreparable harm. So assuming that regression and losing ground behaviorally is irreparable harm, which is what this attorney felt that, you know, it would meet the definition, then that may be something else you need to look into. Parents are also now going to the district and making the case that they should be allowed to have their ABA services in home and other services like speech and whatnot. And I'm telling them, make your request, but be prepared for the fact that you're not going to get it without a fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we're at.
And that's where we're at. It's a crazy, crazy time. And I think, you know, I was saying before that everybody had all these questions and now everybody's sort of stuck in this place of, we don't quite know fish or fowl at this point. And I think in the next couple of weeks, as people go back to school, I'm going to have questions. I think a lot of people are going to have questions. I want to encourage everybody to write in specifically questions for Bonnie. Try to get them to me during the week so that I can get them to her before the weekend. And let us know specifics, like if the individual has a diagnosis, what area of the world the school district is, what they've offered you, what you asked them. Is there anything else that's helpful for you to know, Bonnie?
Age of child.
Age, yeah. Does the functionality of the individual particularly, do you need to know that, or is that not as important?
It's always helpful.
Okay.
You know.
Well,
but I mean, you're gonna have lots of questions. We're gonna have lots of questions, but we will work through them together.
And that's
the other stuff that I wanted to share on the air, but I couldn't, was some stuff about how school psychologists should be asking themselves to function during school closure, and something on implementing the behavior support plans when schools close. So I will send those to you, Shannon, and you can share them.
Okay. All right. And I do want to reiterate, you brought up something on a show a few weeks ago that as they're starting to reveal distance learning plans, and what I've seen thus far is that the schools are putting out distance learning plans that are for all kids, and then you need to go to your IEP meeting to get it individualized. But there are elements of it that we're seeing that there are just expectations of what the parents are supposed to deal with. But you shared with us on the show that if there is something that they expect you to do, they have to train you in how to do it. And if they're not, you should be requesting it in writing.
Yeah, and that's actually covered under parent training and what I'm going to send to you. That
okay.
It specifically said that psychologists could, you know, if they should expect to do parent training, but they don't have to do it one-on-one. They could have a small group of 3 or something. But there's a clear recognition, you know, a lot of the stuff coming off of Special Ed Connection, that there will have to be parent training. But guess what? Nobody's going to offer you parent training. You have to ask for it.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's going to have to be the squeaky wheel. And I tell you, we're going to have to hold hands with this and get through this next, whatever it is. And we're going to have to be on it. And I know that you guys that are watching are capable of this, right? That if we just make a regular schedule of being on it, documenting what our kids are doing, helping them to be able to do it, emailing the school, asking them for things. We need to be squeaky wheels right now.
Yeah,
and
squeakier wheels.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So Bonnie again is with Tollner Law Offices, and Bonnie, they should just Google Tollner, T-O-L-L.
They should rather than wait for me to remember the website. Tollner Law Offices, we'd be happy to talk with you. We've got 8 attorneys. I'm sure somebody can help you with your problem.
There you go. And if not, if you're not in the California, Nevada, Arizona areas,
Then you consult with COPA, COPAA.net, and see what you can find in the other states, and it should be a good place to start.
okay. I hope
All
you're
right.
enjoying this. I hope you're enjoying the summer, Bonnie.
I am enjoying the summer,
I'm
but
glad.
all I do is kiss my grandson.
Are you with him right now?
Well, he's at daycare today.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you were still in the immediate vicinity of where.
Oh yeah,
But that is a luscious thing. I'm so
he's
glad.
my power spot.
All right. Well, you keep on keeping on.
Carry on.
Thank you. We love
All
that.
right.
We love that grandma smile. You got. Are you
Stay
grandma?
Stay healthy, y'all. We need
Yes.
you.
What is he going to call you, grandma, or what are you going to go by?
Right now, it sort of sounds like Angla.
Angla. I love it. Angla. My father, the first grandchild, called him Paga, and that stuck forever.
Good name. You know what? He can call me Mud if he wants to. I
That's
don't know what he calls
that's
me.
the look of love right there. That is the look of love. I love it.
He taught me a lot about love.
All
Anyway,
right.
take care,
Love
everybody. Have a good
you.
week.
So glad that you're there. All right. You take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. I just wanted to take a second to tell you guys a little bit about this week as we get ready to close out the show here. Tomorrow on the show for the month of August, for Tuesday, we're doing those Temple Grandin best of episodes. So tomorrow, again, some interviews that you may not have seen or not seen in years that we've done with Temple Grandin. On Wednesday, we've got Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet. On Thursday, Dina Kimmel's going to join us again to talk about We Rock the Spectrum and some of the things that they are doing, which are just out of sight, amazing. And some of you who have been like, I don't know what to do school-wise, ooh, I wouldn't miss that one. And then Friday, we're going to play an oldie but a goodie. Let's talk autism with Shannon and Nancy. So lots of fun stuff this week. 2 recorded shows, but the rest of them are live. Okay. I will see you back here live. I mean, I'll be here for the Temple Grandin thing tomorrow, but then I'll be back here live with Dr. Graham-Pichet on Wednesday. I want to remind all of you that we love your questions and comments, and we would love to have some questions for Bonnie Yates for next week. And you can also be writing in questions right now for Ask Dr. Doreen on Wednesday. And of course, Dina loves to have your comments too. So all of that. I just, again, because we've got 2 minutes, I want to go back to our topic of the day, which we never get an opportunity to go back to, but if it's not fun, what's the point? So if everybody could take a minute right now to just ask yourself, what would be fun for me today? What would be super extra fun? And don't edit what the answer is. Now, if you find that your answer are all things that you can't do in COVID, all right, say, absolutely, I'm going to do that another time, but what's the closest I could get to that right now? What's the thing that I like, if I can't get to the beach because of COVID, can I make the beach in my bathtub? What part of it is that you really want? You want the sun? Because can you do that on your roof or on your patio or in your backyard? Don't fall off the roof. But ask yourself, okay, if I can't do that, but what could I do? What would make me happy? And, think in even the smallest amounts of time. Maybe, what you want to do is read a book and you don't have time to read the whole book, but maybe you could find, ask yourself the same question for your kiddos. And maybe all they want to do today is watch a Disney video. You could put a Disney video on. You could pretend it's snowing outside, put the air conditioning on, close all the windows up. You sit on the couch and read the book while they watch the Disney video. Life will go on. Have fun. Find the way to have fun today, because it never gets to be August 17th, 2020 ever again. This is the only one of these we get. So find a way to make it fun, okay? I appreciate all of you more than you could possibly know, and I am so grateful for having this time to spend with you guys. I hope that you have a really fun rest of your day. We're going to be back tomorrow with Temple Grandin. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are here with Dr. Doreen Grandin, and we're so excited to have this opportunity to be with you guys. We're coming to you live from places around Southern California, and we're going to be with you live for the next hour talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. We hope that you will participate because this is meant to be interactive. There are a bunch of different ways that you can participate. First of all, you can watch us on autism-live.com, and the chat is working now. If you go to the bottom of the page, click on the chat button, then you can send in your live messages and we'll try to monitor those today because we haven't been because it wasn't working, but it's working now. You can also write into us. I know for a lot of you, the preferred method is on YouTube and Facebook. We are live on both of those platforms right now, in addition to being live on Periscope and Twitter. So write into us whatever way you prefer. We're a lot more immediate with Facebook and YouTube. We are not able to get to all of the questions and comments anymore because there are so many of you writing in. That's a quality problem, but we'll do our level best to get to as many as possible. You can also write into me personally at s.penrod@autism-live.com. That's s.penrod, the last letter is a D as in dog, at autism-live.com. Also, if you want to watch us later on, you can watch us in podcast format on iTunes. It is a free download. You can do either picture and sound or picture. I know somebody wrote in and said that they were listening to us in the car the other day. I absolutely love that. You can easily do that if you download us on iTunes. We're also on Deezer, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Coming to you on 2 new platforms in just a few weeks. So that's a very exciting thing. We'll let you know when we have more information about that. Wanted to get that out of the way because I want you to be writing in. Dr. Grandin is here with us today. That's our favorite day when she is here with us. She is a true expert in the field of autism. She's been working in this field for more than 40 years. Hello. I don't even know how that's possible.
Good morning, everyone.
I know you're like, stop, don't, let me say a word. Yeah, but she's fabulous. And she looks at autism and sees the whole individual, not just a label, and she sees the whole family and has been working in that field, helping all of us for more than 40 years. And she's here this morning to answer your questions. We do have to give you the disclaimer that there is no expert in this field or any other field that can give individual specific advice. That wouldn't be fair to that individual, right? You need to have eyes on the situation, but you can write in and ask her a question, get a whole bunch of information so you can go back to the experts in your area. I'm rushing because I want to get to the good stuff. I want to get to as many questions as possible. Dr. Grandin, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you, Shannon. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm grateful to be here because this is the most fun for me. And I'm saying hello to Christina, who is saying hello to all of us. Thank you for being here with us. Okay, I want to start with a question that came to us from Ireland. And you had answered part of a question from this dad last week, and then they wrote back in with some more information, and they said, Dr. Doreen is brilliant, just had to say it. We're all thinking that too. They say that their child has idiopathic toe walking. The occupational therapist we met didn't impress me, and I haven't met a decent physiotherapist, and I can't figure out how to get my boy off his toes. He has educated me into realizing that not every doctor is equal. Amen to that. The question I have to ask is he capable of walking? He walks for his mother. In fact, he is strong and he is capable of running like an athlete. However, he got into a habit, and anytime I take him out, he insists for the duration of what could be an hour or more of walking being on my shoulders. Here he directs me and tells me where to go. He knows where shops are and what streets have his specific trees on them that he will pick from. My problem is not just smoothly getting from A to B, going into a neighbor's gardens. It's the strain on my shoulders. It's not going to be safe much longer up there. Sometimes he has walked for me, but this is becoming a distant memory. My dream is to walk the streets without him nursing on my shoulders because it makes life difficult. So on your live stream, I would love to learn how to get him off my shoulders. The speech therapist today, who is ABA because I asked, gave me a strategy for him not being on my shoulders. Now the biggest step to free my shoulders. May God bless you. And again, a dad from Ireland. So Dr. Grandin.
A long question, but a very short and easy answer, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I completely understand. And sometimes as parents, we just start to do something, and then before you know it, it becomes the new norm. And then it's a scary thought breaking out of that. And I don't know, Shannon, do you remember how old this child is, or?
I believe this child is younger than 6. I don't remember age.
Yeah,
but younger than 6.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a really easy answer, and that is just stop. And, often I think we don't stop these patterns of behavior because we're worried that our kids will tantrum or have a major reaction, but it will stop. I mean, and as you know, Shannon, if dad stops putting the child on his shoulders, it is possible that the child might throw a tantrum, be very angry, and not want to walk. And that's totally fine, because if you can manage it so that there's a place that he actually wants to go, let's say even outside, like, a very short distance, like from one room to another, or just from the front of the house to the park, something very close by. If he does that, then you can still reward him by putting him on your shoulders, but you have to gradually increase the distance that he is walking by himself. Keep the toe walking issue separate from this. They're two separate things. The toe walking could be a number of other things. We could talk about that in a minute, but the fact that he's learned a habit of sitting on your shoulders does not mean that he can't walk. He certainly can walk, and you should absolutely set a plan. Let's say this little excursion around the town. Why don't you start by, you can actually do it forward or backward shaping, however you prefer. You can either start by saying the first, 10 meters he has to walk, and then you will carry him the rest of the way, and then that becomes 11 and 12 and 13. Or you can begin walking him, and as soon as the house is visible, the last 10 meters, let's say, he has to walk home. Either way, you need to start fading out the shoulders and reinforcing the more steps that he takes. So that's an easy one. The toe walking can be different things. Toe walking, there are behavioral things you can do. For instance, you could put high top shoes on him and practice walking with flat feet. Behaviorally, it does work. There's not clarity on why toe walking begins. There are some, I guess, medical folks who believe that toe walking also also has to do with kind of holding your bowels. So it's kind of like a convert going to the bathroom. I don't know if he has gastrointestinal issues that may have started that. But regardless, it is definitely something that you can control and gradually reteach him to walk normally.
I know you've mentioned before on the show about that sometimes there's a correlation with a visual issue when they're toe walking too. And,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you what my question is that, cause you've taught me always to like be in the perspective of the kiddo and think, what am I getting out of this? And I was thinking about being on, you know, dad's shoulders. I can remember being a little kid and getting to be on my dad's shoulders. And I remember, you know, the difference between when you are the shortest person in the family and the view of what you get to see versus the view of when you are the tallest, which when you're on your dad's shoulders, you are the tallest. And you get to see different things and you get to see the world in a different way. Dad, you've even mentioned that, you know, he knows which trees and he can pick things off of them. Well, that's a big reinforcer. And when you go from that to being the shortest, and I'm just thinking, you know, if it's also a visual thing, that what you see in those two things is vastly different.
Absolutely, Shannon, and that's a great observation. I don't know if you remember, there was a doctor, Dr. Kaufman, and his area of expertise was kind of the visual input of our kids, and he had played around a lot with lenses, like glasses and lenses that would, when you put them on, they changed your visual field in the sense that they kind of made you, it changed the angle of what you were looking at. With toe walking, you're absolutely right. You are kind of putting yourself a little bit higher. When you put on these glasses that this doctor had, your toe walking would decrease because it felt like you're going downhill. It looked like you're going downhill. So you would basically, when you go downhill, you tend to put your weight back. So, and that would eliminate the toe walking. So it could very well be a visual thing. And you do have a very good point that being on dad's shoulders does feel kind of like how it feels like when you stretch yourself or you toe walk. So they could be absolutely related to a visual thing. And that would be worthwhile looking into for sure. And again, one of the things that you mentioned is this child is enjoying like picking fruits off a tree. So maybe you allow him to get on your shoulders when you're underneath a tree, but the rest of the way he has to walk. And so picking fruit off the tree becomes a reward. I kind of feel like a lot of times things might start from a biological perspective, like behaviors might initiate because there's some either a visual thing or a sensory thing that's leading to it, or even a GI thing, and then they become habit. Yeah. And the habit portion is what you can reverse behaviorally. And so I think it's worthwhile trying with this child to just let him be upset if you don't put him on your shoulders. I think that's the hardest thing for parents, is to see their kids just having a major tantrum.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing too. And I think it's a lot like panic attacks, that, you know, everybody says the hardest thing is not the panic attack. It's after you have one panic attack that you're constantly worried that you're going to have another one. So even if you're not in a panic attack, you're worried that you're going to have a panic attack. And your child may not even be tantruming, but the fear that they will tantrum. And, you know, you walk into a family party and you're like, I hope they don't have a tantrum. And the child does one thing, they're not even tantruming. And we escalate into this, oh my gosh. And I know for me, the way I would talk to myself in those moments, the thought process would be, oh no, this is what's going to happen. It's probably my fault. This is going to be the rest of my life. My life will never be better than this. And I wouldn't be in the moment anymore. But I have to say that you guys taught me how to be thinking about that 3-term contingency. What has happened? What can I change? What's the behavior? So if he's already in the tantrum, what's the behavior? Like mentally taking notes, like you could become a court reporter. And that quiets all that other voice and then it makes you more effective at changing the behavior. That really helped me.
Yeah, and I agree. I think also some of it has to do with the inability to predict things, right? So it's kind of like with a panic attack, you never know when they're coming. But in this scenario, I think we just fear doing the thing that's going to initiate the horrible tantrum. And if you know that you have it under control, it becomes a little bit less anxiety provoking, I think. So why don't you you have to kind of change your mindset and say, I'm actually going to evoke a tantrum. I'm ready, I'm armed, this is the time, and I'm going to do this, and I know he's gonna have a tantrum, but that's totally fine because I'm prepared for this, and I'm just gonna wait it out. And if you know that tantrums are not the end of the world and that our kids do settle down, even if the tantrum takes an hour, then you're more brave and more able to do it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think as parents, we worry about our kids in a different way, right? If it was a typically developing child who tantrumed, many of us would be like, oh, he'll be fine. Like, it's okay, he'll get over it. But with our kids who have a diagnosis, we think we should never let them tantrum. And that's not the case. They can aggress and tantrum and express themselves just like any other child would. But it isn't an expression that we want to reward. It's an expression that we want to extinguish. So when that expression of a tantrum occurs, we need to kind of ignore it.
We did a series a few years back, and we're not able to show it to you at this time, but it was called The A Word. And in it, the little boy loved going outside. He would demand and request to go outside. He would demand for grass. But then they got into a habit where he did not want to hold his mother's hand and he wanted to run away from her. And they were working on several different things with safety, but it had gotten to a critical point. And they show on The A Word that first they sit down and do a social story with him, these crayon drawings that, Jack goes outside with his mom. Jack, holds his mom's hand and he gets to be on the grass. If Jack does not hold his mother's hand, he has to come inside. And every day they would read through the story and then he would request grass and they would go outside and she would say, hold my hand. And if he refused, she would say one more time, hold my hand. And if he refused, she would pick him up and take him back inside. Grass is gone. Yeah. And they showed going through it where he threw a tantrum. He tries to bite her because he's so mad at having to hold hands, but they stick to, and they have people there to help with the intervention. And, once he learns, if I don't hold hands, you're going to take me inside, man, he throws the mother of all tantrums, right? And they don't have any reaction. They go inside. At one point, Dad, who I love on this thing, he was like, now see, if you don't, and everybody's like, hey, can you come over here and talk about pie with me? Yeah. Because Dad wants to yak about it. And they're like, hey, what kind of pie did you have yesterday? And he's like, pie, what are you talking about? And later on, he realizes, oh, right, I wasn't supposed to talk about it, right? But it took 2 days. And then he was like, right, I only get to be outside if we hold hands. I want to be outside. I'm holding hands. I'm not biting anyone. I'm not tantruming. And you go, oh, right. It was 2 miserable days, but now he's outside and he's holding hands and everybody's safe. Woohoo, right? It can be done. But you got to stick to and get reinforcements like they did. They had other people there to help so that if, mom needed help carrying him to get him inside and staying calm, cool, and collected and not being bit, you do what you have to do. Definitely. I love that we used to be able to say, so go and watch this episode. And when you see someone else doing it, it's so much clearer than when you're going through it. Right, Dr. Grandin?
Oh yeah, it's hard initially. I always, when I give advice to parents, I wish I was there because you have so many options. Like, first of all, there's so many different things you could do. It's just very hard because the child will react differently and then you kind of have a new plan and you have to adjust your plan and all that sort of stuff. But I think the basis of this one in particular is just don't worry if he has a big tantrum. It's not a big deal. Just make a rule. And the rule is today you're going to have to take, 10 steps. Today you're going to have to take 20 steps. And if you do that, then the rest of the way I will carry you and just keep in that number.
He will get it. I want to move on to our next question that was sent in to us. Our granddaughter is autistic. She's 16 years old. She's such a sweet girl, but we're concerned that she uses foul language loosely and flips her middle finger. She only does this to us, the immediate family. I've talked to her card counselor about this, and she said that she'll be working with our granddaughter about this issue. Is there any recommendation from you on how we can stop her from doing this? Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is a similar, as much as it's a different scenario altogether, it's a similar situation in the sense that she's receiving reinforcers that are kind of embedded in the situation. I'm thinking that when she does that with you, there's some sort of reaction. And honestly, as strange as it sounds and as difficult as it might be, the most important thing is to not have a reaction to this type of behavior. And when I say not have a reaction, that means not positive or negative. So you cannot, when she does those things, comment on, oh, we don't say those things, oh, we don't do that with your hands. You can't have any kind of change. You have to behave as if the behavior did not occur. That means she could be saying something very rude or showing her middle finger or whatever it is, and you still have to engage as if it's not happening and talk about other things and go on a walk and do all the other social things that you're doing. That is super, super hard, but after a while, if she doesn't get any kind of reaction, it'll be just like the way she is with others. It's hard.
You know what I find funny? I mean, I think we can all relate to the fact that we're all a little bored right now at this point in the program. The things that we used to like to do to entertain ourselves have diminished somewhat, right? Everybody's a little bit bored. And I was trying to explain this to a parent the other day that, we think our job is to like reprimand our child, to, let them know you didn't do this right. We don't understand that we are really good theater. And if I am bored and I'm a child and I have no other entertainment, watching my mother go womp, 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 womp is entertainment. That is theater. And if I make her mad enough that she's bouncing off the walls, we are entertaining people. And it's attention and everything that your mother and your grandmother ever taught you about, you need to talk to your kids about it. We really need to put all that stuff to the side. We want to demonstrate to our kids, when you do this, all the good things happen. And when you don't do that, it's like the lights are off. Nobody's punishing you, but the lights are off. The party isn't happening.
That's right. And Shannon, like in this particular case, we all assume that she knows what the middle finger even means, or that she knows that the words that she's saying, what they mean. I don't know that she necessarily even knows. It's just a game. It's kind of like when I see my grandparents, as you know, in behavior, everything is either an antecedent or a consequence, right? Everything. So in this case, she says or does something that is shocking and inappropriate, and the grandparents react, right? Possibly. Now, just seeing grandparents could have also become an SD or a discriminative stimulus for this game, which is, oh, they're the grandparents. This is how I'm going to interact with them because I get a reaction every time I do this. And that's kind of a fun interaction. So we need to, as behaviorists, it always helps a lot if you give up everything you know about a behavior from the past, just look at it as an overt behavior. That's why we talk about overt behaviors, because we give behavior so much meaning. It's just an act. It's a physical act that she does, and you're trying to reduce that physical act. There's no meaning behind it. It's just she does an act, and you are trying to reduce that. So the way to reduce that is to ignore it and move on.
I'm trying not to laugh because I know this is very serious to these grandparents and that it's something to be concerned about. But I will say that, I don't know if our audience knows this. I think you know this a little bit, Dr. Granpichet, because I've told this to you before, but one of my hobbies is swearing. I enjoy a good swear fest. And for me, it's a release. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any kind of recreational drugs. I swear from time to time. And I enjoy it. I will swear at the television set on a daily basis. For me, it is an outlet. But one of the things that, my child learned to swear then. And, we set up guidelines about when swearing is appropriate and when it's not appropriate, because for me, that's a big deal. I think once in 9 years, I said an inappropriate word and it wasn't the worst one on this show. And then I was very apologetic and said, oh, once in 9 years. And I've been in classrooms, for 20 years, and I have once, but it was because it was in something that somebody was doing on, and I was repeating it. That's the only time I've ever said a swear word in a classroom. And then my class laughed for so long and for so hard, we had to call the class because they laughed. But it was something that was in the monologue that the actor was saying. It wasn't me saying it. I'm just saying, so I just want to also put it out there that, we said to our son, because he gets online with his friends and it is like a social thing where they play games and they swear at each other. And we set guidelines for this is what's appropriate for someone your age and this is what is not appropriate. And swearing at your grandparents, not appropriate. Right. The fact that she's only doing it with these people is interesting to me. But, and I think that, you're right that she may not even know what it is. But for people who do have kids who know what it is, we just put black and white barriers on it, like what we have in our lives.
Yeah.
Dr. Granpichet's not on here cussing it up because, this is not the place.
And their environments, there's one of the lessons that I remember we made for skills, which is kind of a very important lesson, has to do with identifying the contextual cues of the environment. And it would be very appropriate, let's say, for a teenager to swear when they're interacting socially with their friends, let's say, if the friends are also doing that. Not appropriate with grandparents. And that's a contextual cue. And I think, just the same, exactly the same, this child or adolescent has now gotten the contextual cues mixed up a little bit and thinks, oh, when I see grandparents, that's the time I swear because then it looks really funny when they all react. And so
theater.
Yeah.
Good theater. We got a big conversation going on Facebook about food and diet. One parent wrote in and said, we've been doing a whole foods diet. And when he ate pizza, he was all over the place. Wow, can't believe how much food has affected his behavior. And she said he was bouncing off the walls. Another parent said, that's like sugar in my child. And I know this has been a conversation. Somebody says pasta affects the behavior of their child. And the parent who had pizza said he was up 1:30 a.m. till 12 noon, bouncing off the walls. Amazing. So, I know this is something that we've been talking a little bit more about and saying that we're going to talk more about it. I didn't know if you wanted to comment.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm a big believer that diet has a huge impact on our kids, on us in general. And there's many different aspects to what goes on with diet. I mean, and I'll just quickly, thinking, we always think that a lot of our parents, or I think, been in the field for so long. And I always think, oh, all the parents have been in the field with me this long, right? But the truth is, 40 years ago, we didn't know anything about how diet affects our kids. And 40 years ago, we had a very different diet than we do now in the United States. And, but over the course of time with autism, we started to learn a lot more about the gastrointestinal issues that coincide with a lot of our kids. A lot of our kids have GI issues. And the whole concept of a leaky gut began within autism, right? And the leaky gut concept is a very, very simple concept. And it is that certain proteins, like in particular, when this concept came up, it was gluten and casein. And gluten, of course, is the protein that is in grains, like wheat and so on. And casein is the protein that is in dairy, like cheese, for example. So those two proteins, so normally when we eat proteins, We break the protein down from a protein to a peptide, from a peptide to an amino acid, and then the amino acids go through our system and give us nutrition. Think of amino acids as like individual cells, and proteins as like a number of amino acids attached to each other. And unless you do the entire breakdown, you're not getting the benefit of the amino acid. So what happens with gluten and casein is that many of our kids will break the gluten or casein, the protein, down to just the peptide level and not further to the amino acid level. Now, what happens then is that those peptides begin to leak through the gut lining, and that is just because there's so much inflammation in the gut lining. And when they leak through, they will go through the system, and once they get to affecting the brain, they are mimicking endorphins, right? Endorphins are kind of what we produce in our body that makes us feel very positive. Like you get endorphins when you do running, for example, or when you work out, that feeling. So these proteins cause a lot of mischief in the body. They cause a lot of mischief in the brain, right? Because they look exactly like an endorphin. So they make you feel kind of loopy and out of it and like happy and so on. So as a result, you end up eating or craving more of this stuff that's going to make you feel out of it and a little bit loopy and high, right? So our kids go into this cycle of craving stuff that's actually not good for their brain, stuff that's going to make their brain very out of it and loopy. So it became very, very clear to us early on, like 20 years ago or maybe more, that we need to keep our kids off of certain foods. And over time, we learned that it wasn't just gluten and casein. For some kids, it's also soy. For some kids, it's also corn. And we gradually came to realize that our children have, there's a lot of different foods that they cannot break down. Now, to make matters worse, over the course of time, our food source has gotten worse too. So our food source is now almost entirely genetically modified in the US. And so everything is kind of like fake food is what I call it, right? It looks beautiful, but there's no there's no nutritional value to it. And then so that in itself also increases all sorts of inflammation in the gut. So, and I won't go on because I get very passionate about talking about all the toxins, because I truly believe autism has more to do with redox cycle and not being able to detoxify from environmental toxins than anything else. And so I feel that a lot of what goes on with our kids is basically reacting to the food they eat. In some ways, you're lucky if you have a child who reacts very, very strongly to pizza, because then you know right away pizza is both gluten and casein. Just get them on a diet and eliminate casein and gluten, which is not easy to do. And we've done that with a lot of our kids in the past. And you start out with just eliminating the casein and waiting 3 weeks, and then you eliminate the gluten, which is a little bit harder, not much harder these days, because you can pretty much buy everything gluten-free. And then see how your child is doing, because wonderful, you found something that you can change that will help improve behavior.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw in there that make sure that you're looking at what you're getting gluten-free, and that it's not more of because now there's so many things that are gluten-free that sometimes it's like it's all sugar, which is also not the best thing for our kiddos. So be mindful. I love that you were doing a whole food diet with him, and she says just having him on the whole food diet changed the way his BMs were. That before he was having a BM every 9 days. And now he's having, I know TMI, you guys, but a good large BM at least 2 times a week, and that's going in the right direction. But I think, as Dr. Grandpichet said, since pizza caused that reaction, that not just a whole food diet, but looking at adding those in. If anybody doubts this and you're like, well, please know that it's not all kids. The studies have been, coming in about gluten-free, casein-free. And the reason why everybody hasn't gotten on board with it is because it doesn't work for everybody. For some kids, as Dr. Grandin said, it's other things. But I think it's worth a try to try the gluten-free, casein-free diet. But if you're going to do it, you have to. It's not the kind of diet where you can go on it and be like, well, and then he had crackers in the afternoon and we didn't see a result. It doesn't work that way. You need to be on it like strictly for, I would say, at least 3 months. And I think most doctors say 6 months before you give up. Because somebody wrote in and said, we've tried it twice and we didn't see something. And that's possible. But I also know a lot of families who are like, well, we tried it for like 2 months and we only had McDonald's once a week. And I'm like, well, then you're not going to get the results. I do want to say about the milk thing. I think it's 1984. If you Google Phil Donahue milk allergy, you will find a video, and I think it's from 1984, where he had a doctor come on the Phil Donahue show. I just met Phil Donahue and thanked him for this because I think it was life-changing for a lot of us. Came on the show with a bunch of small children, and he did something highly unethical. I don't think anybody could ever do it again. I don't know if you have ever seen this, Dr. Grandin, but he had a bunch of children that had been having behavior problems. They had removed milk from their diets, and these children were much better. And instead of showing us before and after videos, he sat the children on the stage. He said, we're going to feed them some milk, and we're going to go to commercial, and we're going to videotape what happens. And those kids were screaming, yelling, throwing, so unethical, right? To do that to those little children. But he wanted to make a point because people were poo-pooing this. And you watch those children turn into kids who are tantruming within 10 minutes. Yeah. So if you're thinking that it can't have something to do with your child's behavior, I would ask you to just take a look at that video and go, okay, maybe. They want to know, do you recommend an IgG food allergy panel?
Yeah, we always used to recommend an IgG food panel, and yes, you should, if you can, go see an allergist and get a food panel. The issue is that they're not always accurate. Our body can throw these tests off, and you might see what often we see is a reaction to everything on these food panels. It just shows, oh my God, he's allergic to every single thing. And that is often because there's so much inflammation that the reading is incorrect. So even if you do a food panel, what ends up happening is you will need to one by one reduce various things so that we get to a point where inflammation is less. And then they can actually start to determine what is the specific trigger for you, for your child. It is a time-consuming thing, and it takes a while. You just have to be very patient with it, and it is not easy to eliminate certain foods. And as Shannon said, a lot of times when you go through this in the very first 6 months, you're eliminating other things that are also triggers that you can bring back later, like sugar. Sugar is one that will trigger everyone. And so they will ask you when you go do this with a doctor or a nutritionist, they'll try to get you off sugar as well as, let's say, gluten, and for the first 6 months. And just think about that. Think about how hard it is to do that. Just those two things.
And of course, we haven't even talked about the pesticides, but I will say this, that we took my son for the IgG, and it was really worthwhile because we found out that he had a beginning allergy to almonds, and we were able to stop almonds in his diet, which was a big deal, so that he didn't become anaphylactic allergic to almonds. That was great. But it came back and said that he did not have an allergy to milk or to gluten. And we also had him tested for celiac, no celiac, and yet my child would react to milk and gluten. So I just want to put that out there. And once we took the milk and gluten out, he started to be able to focus and to learn, and his language started to come back. And we have several people who've written in and said that it made a huge difference. One parent who said it's made a huge difference, but by the way, she said, I would bounce for joy if my 4-year-old, who is currently nonverbal, said 4-letter words, and she laughed. And that was me. One of the first spontaneous full sentences my son said contained an expletive. And I, I called our supervisor, Sabrina Tuma, and I was like, you'll never guess what happened. He said this word, and I know for sure we didn't try to teach it to him. He picked it up. Isn't that incredible? And, and it was a bad word, you guys, but I was partying about it. Okay, this is serious business here. Somebody said, when it's a 22-year-old nonverbal, 250 pounds, 5'11", and he's hitting you all day long. Yeah. How do you ignore that meds aren't helping? I was told next stop is a med wash at a psych hospital again. Yeah. And she I'm sending you a hug. She sent a frowny face.
Yeah, no, you cannot ignore that. And that is, sometimes we just, what our kids go through, what our parents go through, unbelievable. And you absolutely cannot ignore behavior when you're dealing with an adult who is aggressive, period. And those are the cases where even with us as behaviorists, we will have 2 therapists, and preferably large therapists who have been trained in assaultive behavior management techniques. And we will have both of them with the individual at the same time, blocking the behavior and redirecting the behavior to other behaviors. As a parent, you cannot do this alone. You need help. And medication can be part of the treatment for sure. But it is not the only treatment, the only part of it. Unfortunately, it is a behavior that needs to be shaped. It is a challenging behavior that has become effective. It always starts with our kids or adults hitting to get what they want, to express that they don't want to do something. So it's a form of communication. I always say hitting is a form of communication. It's an expression of no, or it's an expression of give me. And it's a very, very dysfunctional form of communication. And in order to change it, you need help. You cannot do that alone.
Yeah, a lot of times lately we've been advising parents to call their insurance provider and to say, like, to be very clear, and don't just talk to the first person who answers the phone. Tell them that you need like they have different words for different insurance company, whether it's a case manager or an ombudsman, or, they all have different words, but keep asking until you get someone, a crisis management counselor, get someone on the phone, because you're gonna need more help. A lot of times though, we've been hearing parents who their child ends up on a psych ward and they're not getting the behavioral health that they need. Is there any place, there's a couple of places, I've got a short list of places, but they have waiting lists, but is there any place that you recommend for a hospitalization for a behavioral program, Dr. Grandin?
Well, I know that Kennedy Krieger has a program, and what is I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of the place in Atlanta.
The ones I know are Kennedy Krieger, the May Clinic.
Yeah,
Institute. And then what is it, the New England?
New England Center. Yeah, that's also in the Boston area. But the one that I'm thinking about is in Atlanta, and I'm blanking on the name. I will tell you in a minute, so I'm going to look it up. But that's a very huge center as well. And they, a lot of ABA providers actually do have assaultive behavior management programs like we do, CARD does. The Marcus Institute, that's what I was thinking of. Marcus Institute would be probably my number 1 pick because they have a specialized program for this. But what you need to do is just actually talk to your insurance company and say, I need a 2-on-1. My child is very aggressive and is an adult. and I need help. And there are programs for this. Like at CARD, we do have some aggressive adults, and we have 2 therapists working with them at any given time. But it's like, I think we have maybe 200 individuals who are aggressive, as opposed to 5,000 other patients. So it definitely is a specialized program, and I just want to give you a big hug and say it's not something you can handle alone as a parent.
Absolutely, absolutely. But call your insurance company and make them be responsible to you to find you an answer. They have to find you a provider. They have to find you help and support. I just think you want to make sure that you're asking them for behavioral support in addition to the meds.
Yes.
If you don't say behavioral support, they're going to throw you down the meds. And that's, meds are great, but you also need some behavioral support if you're being hit. Okay, we got a lot of things that people are writing in. We've only got 15 minutes left. A lot of things about diet, people wanting more information. I can't get my cursor to move. Would love to know more about diet. Somebody says it's so hard with older children. I did the basic switch, gluten-free pizza, crust, bread, pasta. Since the child are HS, how can I really be in control of their diet? High school. It's hard. This is a really, really hard thing. I know parents who have put a lock on the cabinets and the refrigerators.
Well, yeah, and now, depending on where this family is maybe a better time to deal with it, since a lot of our kids are still at home or not going to school physically. But it is very hard, and you will need to, honestly, I gotta say though, in terms of how difficult it is, it's a 1,000 times easier now than it was 10 years ago and 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you couldn't even get gluten-free anything. It was super, super difficult. 10, 15 years ago, you could only get certain gluten-free things, very limited still, at, let's say, Whole Foods, right? Nowadays, most restaurants offer gluten-free options. So it's a very different world. And so don't give up. It's super important to try.
And I gotta say, a lot of times we feel like, well, what can I do because they're older, and how can I, limit? But sometimes you have to have the whole family go on the diet, which means that the stuff is not in the house.
Right.
And I know it's easier with younger kids, and so I want the families with younger kids to hear that. But I have this friend, and she was talking about, she came to my house and she saw that my child ate vegetables, and she was like, I just don't know how you do that. And I was like, I don't, he's always liked vegetables. He's always eaten vegetables, but I always present vegetables. She went on vacation, and she was someplace where they had a hurricane and they couldn't leave their hotel room, and the hotel only sent up what they had, and they were in like a tropical island. And so it was fruit and vegetables and rice and meat, and her kids hate vegetables. And she said, what is this magic thing? And she said, I think it might be because that's what was available.
Yeah.
And so then that changed how she did things. She's the one who then, I talk about this all the time on the show, that her kids were always hungry when they came home from school, and she'd be cooking dinner, and they would get in and they would eat the least healthy things. So what she started doing was taking vegetables, cutting them up, having them on a tray. When they came into the kitchen, and when they would get into the refrigerator, she would say, you can eat what's on the tray, but it was only healthy choices. And then she didn't care if they ate vegetables at dinner because they'd already eaten their vegetables. Right. And her kids ate vegetables. It's hard, but sometimes we feel like, I have no control over it because they're older, but they're probably not buying groceries and bringing them into the house, not during COVID. So you do have control, and you can be sneaky and put just a healthier version of stuff and do it slowly, or you can just cold turkey and throw out everything that isn't part of what you want to eat. And it makes it so that everybody in the family, goes, what's happening? But I'll tell you, everybody will start to feel better. Yeah. They want to know, can supplements like B12 and lecithin help children on the spectrum?
Yeah, no question. I mean, so The B vitamins, some of the kids actually have significant reactions to the B vitamins. B12, generally cyanocobalamin is just going to give you energy, and that's going to be anyone, whether it's a child on the spectrum or us. But there are other B vitamins that also have an effect. I mean, before we start to, before we start to like talk about the different supplements, then I think it's important to get a complete blood test and to work together with a physician so that you're really supplementing the things that are necessary and not just, you know, what everyone else does. We all have different reactions to what's in our environment, so we all have different supplement needs.
Okay, somebody wrote in about magnesium and DHA, and I can't get my cursor to move back up. I don't know what's going on.
Magnesium, yeah, so now again, like I said, there are, and I think you've had on the show several times, Shannon, nutritionists.
Yeah.
And, you know, some of our kids benefit from these particular supplements because they have things like so much inflammation that it causes constipation, and then we're dealing with very serious constipation issues, and then supplements are given specifically for those types of things. And let me tell you, sometimes it's life-changing. So I really, really do think that it is worthwhile talking to nutritionists. I know you've had Julie Matthews on your show and others, I believe, and I know that
Absolutely.
Lisa still does a lot of stuff having to do with food, and I think these are very, very important facts.
Yeah, I'll invite Julie Matthews to come back, and we just had Lisa Ackerman on a couple of weeks ago. And people can go to either Julie Matthews' website, which is Nourishing Hope, and you'll find out, you know, I mean, you'll just go down the rabbit hole because she's got all kinds of resources on her website. And then TACA, TACA now.org. If you go there, that's for TACA, which stands for the Autism Community in Action. And they have lots of stuff on diet. You could, you know, spend the rest of your life looking through the stuff they have there. I found the comment. Once we added magnesium citrate, DHA, and inulin fiber, it got my daughter off of Miralax and improved her behavior. I have to say, you guys, if I don't take my magnesium every day, I am a mess. I'm a mess without my magnesium. It helps me to manage, like, you know, because I'm somebody who runs a little anxious, as you know, Dr. Grandin, and like, you know, OCD anxious. I take my magnesium and I'm good. I don't take my magnesium and I'm checking the stove 3 times.
Yeah, magnesium citrate is very, very good for GI issues like inflammation that's causing constipation. And, you know, constipation is no joke. Like, it can really cause a lot of other types of problems and depression and lethargy and all kinds of things. So yeah, it is life-changing when you find the supplement that gets you to be regular. It even improves sleep. Sleep then improves all of your other learning stuff. It does help with anxiety. I mean, there's so much stuff that comes with the right supplement. Absolutely.
Yeah, somebody wants to know if there's an acceptable sugar substitute. I just want to put in a word for natural whole fruit. A lot of times we get our kids hooked on juice, and that, you know, our kids need the whole, that's, you know, somebody was talking about a whole foods diet, like giving your child, if possible, and if you have to, you know, mash it up or grind it up, but still starting with the whole fruit. You know, an apple does not need sugar.
Yeah.
I know we're led to believe here in the United States that it does, but, you know, that's why so many of us are the weight that I am. You know, I'm speaking honestly here. But for our kids, they really don't, they don't need it. They like it.
No, right. But if you, I mean, I think you can try and see, everybody reacts differently, but you can try and see if your child reacts to agave. A lot of kids are fine with agave, with honey, and if not those, of the sweeteners, from what I've learned, stevia seems to be the least harmful. So kind of go in that order.
There we go. Do you have any stance on the use of CBD in children with autism?
I mean, I do. I talked about this a long time ago, and when it wasn't okay to talk about it. And I feel like as if you're a parent and you have a child who is either aggressive or self-injurious or in some other way their challenging behavior is harmful to others or to themselves, and you've tried everything. I mean, truthfully, if you've tried medications and you've tried behavioral interventions and you were not succeeding, and the child either has pain or anxiety or various other things that can't be controlled, then yeah, I consider CBD to be just like any other medication. And it is now legal in many, many states. And I think that it is definitely something that should be considered. I mean, I have a family that I care about very, very much. I've known them for a long time, and I know their son very well. And he is now, I think like 18 almost. And he's very self-injurious, and it's really, really difficult to get through to him and communicate with him. And one of the things that does help calm him down is CBD, and I'm 100% in support of it, because I feel like in his case, it is definitely improves his living and his condition in a lot of ways, and it allows him to have a higher quality of life. And all of everything we do is about trying to get our kids a higher quality of life. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Somebody wrote in and said, yes, that they, one of the things they tried was the Feingold diet. Such a process though, but well worth it. Finally, a physician detected dairy was causing some of his symptoms, on to eliminating gluten, corn, and soy. Ugh, that sugar beast, yes, ruled out celiac as well. And they said, thank you for sharing this topic. And then another person went on to say, yes, organic diet with no pesticides, no artificial dyes and sugars is important. My daughter had IgG panel and it was negative for gluten and dairy, but she gets hives and has massive bouts of anger when she eats both of these. Pick me. Yeah, I'm all about, if you do the research on what pesticides do to our kiddos and how it makes it hard for them to be able to focus,
Yeah.
I think it changes. I think it's impossible in the United States to be on a no pesticide diet, but I think every time that we try to reduce the amount of pesticide in our kids' diets, we're doing ourselves and them a favor.
Very true.
Okay. I don't understand that question. Oh, they're homeschooled, not high school. When they said HS, I was homeschooled, not high school. Got it. Someone said, my son won't eat vegetables. If you sneak them into things in a small amount, that may not be true. What do you say, Dr.?
And if there are no other choices, that helps as well.
Yeah. But, Jerry Seinfeld's wife wrote a cookbook, I don't know, 2 decades ago about how to sneak vegetables into their favorite foods. I still think it's relevant. I don't have this problem with my son because I fed him vegetables from the time that he was young, but I married a man who hadn't had a vegetable in 10 years. I'm not kidding. And I make meatloaf, and I first steam and then grind carrots and broccoli and put it in the meatloaf. And instead of the eggs and the cheese and the breadcrumbs, no eggs, no breadcrumbs, I just stick ground carrots and broccoli. And my husband said to me, this is the best meatloaf I've ever had. What did you do to it? I did not tell him that it was filled with carrots and broccoli. But now, can I tell you, now my husband eats carrots and broccoli. And he was a tougher nut to crack than any child I've ever come across. Somebody says, I love Julie Matthews. Our nutrition person just said, add more fiber, but there is more wrong with him. Yeah. If you remember, I remember this parent, when you told me you were going to a nutritionist, I said, oh, be careful, because some nutritionists are absolutely fabulous and get it. And others went to school and took the 2-hour class on, the food pyramid, which is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. If we all ate 11 pieces of bread every day, heaven help us. which I think that's what it says we can have. It's just like, it's insanity. I would, you know how the Spurlock guy, he did the documentary called Super Size Me?
Yeah.
He should do a documentary where he just eats the food pyramid to see what happens. I'll bet he weighs 400 pounds by the time he's done. It's insanity. I've told you guys before that when I was pregnant with Jem, I'm allergic to wheat. And I have a heart arrhythmia thing. I was having a heart arrhythmia while pregnant, went to the hospital. They said, we're going to keep you overnight for observation. And I said to my husband, great, I need you to go down to the grocery store because I'm going to need to eat dinner and they're not going to have anything here at the hospital that I could eat. And she was like, what are you talking about? We have a kitchen. I said, yeah, but I'm wheat allergy. I can't. She goes, we'll get you a sandwich. And this is a doctor, right? And a doctor, and she said, we'll get you a sandwich. And I said, yeah. And this was, 20 years ago. And I said, yeah, no, I have a wheat allergy. I can't have bread. And she said, oh, no, we'll get you white bread.
Oh my God.
And my husband said, I just want to know, what do you think white bread is made out of? White? Like, is that what you think? A lot of times they don't know. They don't know. You got to go to somebody who knows. Julie Matthews knows. Look at her website. We're out of time. Talked to. I'm sorry. I adore you. You are the best. And what a light you are in this world. And thank you for being there for us and helping guide us on this path.
Always everyone. Have a wonderful week.
All right. I will see you later on. Thank you, Dr. Grandpichet.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you guys, I want to tell you as Dr. Grandpichet leaves, bye-bye, that tomorrow on the show, of course, we're doing jargon of the day. We're continuing talking about types of reinforcement. You're going to love that. It's all new jargon. And we are welcoming back to the show Dina Kimmel. She is the owner and founder of the We Rock the Spectrum's kids gyms. And she's got a big announcement about what they're doing in her gyms and how that might be of use to you during COVID. So that is happening tomorrow. And Traven told me who was on Friday, and I cannot remember. But, we are playing oldie but goodie episodes during August of Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And so we'll find out who that is, and I'll remember to tell you tomorrow. But we got to go. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. It's a good day to be here, and we are coming to you live from many places from around Southern California today. So excited. It's Thursday, and we have one of my favorite people as a guest. Dina Kimmel's going to be joining us in just a few minutes from We Rock the Spectrum. She's going to rock our world she's so smart. Can I just say, I always tell her I want to grow up and be just like her, even though she's younger than me. You know what I mean? She's just so smart, and just an amazing businesswoman, amazing mom, an amazing friend, and I'm sure her husband would say she's an amazing wife. So she's going to join us in a little while and tell us what We Rock the Spectrum has been doing, because we talked to her a few months ago at the beginning of the pandemic, and she had shifted what her gyms were doing, and they were giving childcare to first responders. And so we're going to check in with her about what she's doing now, because I think you guys are going to be really excited. It's a lot of what you guys have been asking for. So there you go. I get so excited about it, but we got a few things, bits of business to take care of before that. Want to welcome all of you and let you know that the show for the next hour live is meant to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your concerns. So if you're watching us live right now, and today is Thursday, it is August 20th, 2020. If you are watching us live right now, you're probably watching us either on our homepage, which is autism-live.com, or you might be watching us on Facebook or YouTube. If you're watching in any one of those three places, you can be interacting with us very easily right now. There's a chat on the homepage, or you can just write in your questions on Facebook and YouTube, and we will try to get to as many of those as we can. We just aren't capable of getting to all of them, and for that I apologize, but we'll get to as many as we can. Be persistent, right? As in all things, right? You might also be watching us live on Twitter or Periscope. We love having you watch us there. You can also watch us podcast later on today on any of those locations, but then you can also you can download the free podcast on iTunes. You can have it with video and sound, or just sound if you want to take us in the car, which I hear more and more of you are doing, and I love that. Be careful while you're driving. Or take us on a walk. Oh, that's a good thing to do. Or on the treadmill. I'm on the treadmill every day, and I get bored. I don't know about you guys. So take something to listen, us or somebody else, right? But you can also get our podcast for free on Spotify, on Deezer, on iHeartRadio, and I feel like I'm always missing one. But we have a couple more that are coming up here at the end of August, beginning of September. We're going to give you more information about that. If there is this place that you get your podcast that we are not, will you please do me a favor and let us know? The only reason why we're not there is either they charge their viewers, which we don't do that, or it's that we just don't know. And I fully admit that we do not know a whole lot of things. So we count on you guys to educate us. Isn't that wonderful? Take an opportunity to let us know where you want us to be. Okay, so having said that, I do like you to know that we have lots of experts that are on the show. We've got an amazing expert here today, Dina Kimmel. And, but I do like to give you guys the disclaimer that while we have many experts here, no one can give your child individual specific advice. And please know that I am not one of the experts. My credentials, which I'm loving more and more, can I just say, I'm a former teacher, a former classroom teacher. I taught college and I taught junior high and high school, and I was substitute teacher for all grades. So I've taught every grade that there is. I've been in special needs classrooms. I've been in AP classrooms as a teacher. I taught college. I taught college theater, and I taught college communications. So I've taught a wide variety of people, and it's why I'm so adamant about some of the things going on right now with distance learning. I know for a fact that it can be done with a wide range of people, but not everybody. So we want to try to get as many of our kiddos happy and on distance learning as we can, and problem solve until we can get them what they need, because education is fundamental, as they like to say. So that's part of my credential to be here. But the other part of my credential, which I think is more important in this venue, is that I'm the mom of an amazing young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. And we got so lucky. We got access to what he needed fairly quickly, within a year, although it took me a while to go and get the diagnosis as well, right? So he was able to start early intervention, and we were able to fight for the privilege to get the full funding for what he needed. We had to fight, but we were successful, and he got a full early intensive ABA program with the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And our lives were changed by that forever. His life was changed by that. My life was changed by that. Our family life was changed by that. I have every day the gratitude of knowing that my son can do whatever he wants, that he can go wherever he wants, he has the skills to do whatever he wants, and that he's a happy soul on this planet. And that's all I want for all of you. Whether, and this audience, we always talk about the larger autism community. It starts with the individuals who are on the autism spectrum. What I wanted for my son is what I want for you. The ability to do what you want to do, to be able to go where you want to go, apply for a job, get that job, have the relationship of your dreams, if that's what you want. If you want a family, if that's what you want. But I think you deserve, I know you deserve the right to be able to do that. So first of all, we welcome those individuals on the autism spectrum, the beating core of that community, but we also welcome everyone who loves them. And that's an even bigger community. And if we all align ourselves together for the things that we agree on, which is not, this is not a one size fits all thing, right? If we can agree on that, but agree that everybody deserves dignity, a job, and the ability to pursue their dreams, boy, we are a powerful group of people. So I'm here to support that whole community in whatever way I can. I owe that to all of you. That's the karmic debt that I have. That's the deal I made on to my higher power on the floor of my bedroom, saying, please help me to help my child. And I promise if you do, I'll turn around and help whoever I can. That's where I'm coming from. I'm not omniscient, omnipotent, and I'm not ridiculously, I'm not even slightly wealthy. So I have limits, but within those limits, I'm here for you. Please write into us. Don't make me be a mind reader because I'm not. And you know what I always say, we hold hands, si se puede, we can do this, right? Together. Okay, so that's what the Dealy Wheel is. We like to start Thursdays with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what in the hey nanny nanny are those experts talking about? What does this have to do with us? Is this really something I need to learn? Really? And I only put terms in here if I think that they can save you 5 minutes and $5, okay? Now, over this week and the next 2 weeks, we're gonna be covering types of reinforcement. Because a lot of times you guys will write into me and we'll talk about making something reinforcing for our kiddos, teens, and adults. And you guys, sometimes people will push back and sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's your significant others or your parents, your grandparents that are in the house. That people have this old school mentality of, well, you should just do it because it's the right thing to do. Okay, but that just doesn't happen overnight. People only do the right thing if it's meaningful to them, and we have to make it meaningful first, right? And a lot of you will say, well, we're just rewarding him or her for everything. Is this what it's going to be like the rest of our lives? And I want you to see how this works. So on Tuesday, we talked about a schedule of reinforcement, that we're going to be mindful about how we reinforce. Well, today we're going to talk about all of your worst nightmare that you think that this particular thing is going to happen up through college for your children. It's continuous reinforcement. And this is how you guys think of reinforcement. And you might notice if you're looking at a behavior intervention plan that this would be abbreviated to CRF, continuous reinforcement. Okay, so let's take a look at what this is, when we use it, and how we use it. Our actual definition, which we'll try to make fun of if at all possible. I think these aren't that bad because I deliberately picked ones that weren't horrible. A schedule in which every instance of behavior produces reinforcement. Well, that kind of makes sense, right? Continuous reinforcement, and it's a schedule. Every instance of a behavior produces reinforcement. Okay, but let's move on to our working definition and see if it's a little bit more useful to us. Constant and consistent rewards for targeted behaviors. It's effective when beginning to teach something new or difficult. Okay, so we don't use continuous reinforcement very much. We really don't. It's really just like a step that we would use in the beginning of teaching something, or if we're teaching something that's really hard and very aversive for somebody. So, I'm thinking of, there was a play structure at a playground that my son, for whatever reason, he became afraid of heights. And he had a really hard time walking on tile floors because he felt like he was going to fall between them. And on this bridge that was in the play structure, there was it had little perforations in it, and they were pretty little, you know, I mean, just a little bit of sand could go through, but for whatever reason, his object permanence and himself, he thought that he could fall through the holes of that. So it was very, very aversive to him. And we found out later that that had a little bit to do with a visual thing that he had going on, for those of you who keep track of that. But we needed to work on that with him, and he wasn't going to do it unless it was worthwhile. So we worked on having him go up the different steps, not even get on the bridge. And for every step he went up, he got a reinforcer, something that was meaningful to him. Really, really. Now, for a lot of kids, that, you know, a primary reinforcer is food. I'm not a big fan of that. But for some of our kids, that's what we need to do for a short period of time to get them to do something so that they can see that there's nothing harmful in it. What we needed my son to see was that he could trust us, that we weren't going to cause him to fall between the cracks, that we weren't going to force him to do something, that we were going to give him time to be comfortable, and that he was going to get a reward for it. So every single step that he went, he got a reinforcer. Now that's not sustainable long term, right? But we're constantly wanting to get to a reinforcer, and then once we get the reinforcer and they see that, oh, this actually isn't that bad, nothing bad is happening to me when I'm standing on the bridge, then we can start to do different kinds of reinforcement where we don't reinforce every single time. But you will see, if your child is just starting out on an ABA program, that you're going to hear, you know, they're going to ask your child to do something, and, you know, they might be, I've got the puppet here because we were talking to a kiddo yesterday, they might be like, touch the puppet. And I know we all go, touch the puppet. I want my child to speak. I want my child to go to college. How are we going to, but it's a progression, right? So that they might go, touch the puppet. And, you know, your child touches the puppet, they, yay, tickles, wonderful, you know, because we're teaching him, oh, when I ask you to do something, it's not horrible. It's not bad, right? And you get a reinforcer. We're not going to do that forever. And in fact, you'll see later on, you know, we'll very quickly work up to the point where they'll have to do 10 things before they get a reinforcer, right? So, but just, this is the thing that you guys are all afraid of. Continuous reinforcement for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to reinforce this. No, this is just a very beginning thing that we do so that we get over that hump and get them willing to learn. And have the trust, and they feel safe. And they're like, oh, okay, we're not doing anything really, really crazy here. You're just asking me to touch a puppet. Okay, all right, I can do that. That's fine. And that will lead us to be able to do even harder things, like say puppet, and say, I want the puppet, please. And you know what I like about puppets, right? But to have that conversation, or to be able to say to you, I don't like puppets. Puppets creep me out, right? We want them all to get to the ability where they can communicate their needs, their desires, their wants, right? Continuous reinforcement, really just something we do very briefly to help get on that path, okay? It's a really good thing. And we'll continue next week with talking about some of the different other types of reinforcement and how we break it up into when we give it and how we give it, okay? So moving on, we always have a question of the day for you. Our question today, I have no idea what it is because I don't remember. What skills are you currently struggling with? What are you struggling with? Whether you are the individual who is on the autism spectrum, or you're the parent, or you're the teacher, or the boyfriend or the girlfriend, the husband or the wife, what are you currently struggling with? I really think, you know, what our community, our larger community, needs more of is perspective taking. We talk all the time about how individuals on the spectrum need to learn to take our perspective, but are we taking theirs? And one of the ways we start to do perspective taking is by checking in with ourselves. What am I struggling with? What's really, really hard for me? And I can think of at least 3 things that are really, really hard for me. And how do I want to be treated when I work on those things? What helps me to get through it? I got to be in the right state of mind to get through it. I have to be rested. I have to feel well to get through it. I like when someone is being patient. I like when somebody teaches me the necessary things that I need to be able to do to get through it. I hate it when somebody gives me a task and doesn't tell me everything I need to know. Like, here's the thing we want you to do, but nobody gives me the password to get into the account. Well, that, come on, right? So are we doing that for our individual that we care about on the spectrum? How are we giving them what they need to get through what they struggle through? Now, I do think it's worthwhile to check in with ourselves and go, what am I struggling with and what do I want? And then move the conversation to what are they struggling with? Don't forget the part of the equation with what will help them. What helps me doesn't necessarily help you and doesn't necessarily help my child on the spectrum. And there are ways that we can do preference assessments with them to think about, what has helped them in the past. We can, there are ways that we can ask verbally and non-verbally, how can I help you to do this, and get them to request, can I get help with this part of it, right? That's something we can work on with very young kids, even when they don't have a whole skill repertoire, right? Okay, so, and our topic this week that we're finishing out today's our last live show of the week. We're doing a pre-recorded show tomorrow. But so our topic this week has been, if it's not fun, what's the point? I know that this is really hard and we're all taking everything so seriously right now, and heaven knows that there's enough in the world to take seriously. And I'm not saying don't take anything seriously, but wherever you can, I want you to think about the fact that whatever you've got to do today, make it fun, or at least make some significant portion of the day fun. Because otherwise we can't sustain. And there are so many things going on right now. If you cut the fun completely out, whoo! And for those of you who are families who are doing, especially the intensive interventions, it's so easy. I know, because my son did 5 years of intensive. You get caught up in that. Don't forget to schedule in the fun for your child and for your family and for you. You won't be able to sustain it unless you build in fun. So I've said this on Monday or Tuesday, whichever day. Our brains are these positive assumptive machines. They're computers. And ask yourself today, okay, what do I need to do today? How can I make it fun? It might be that, you got to do a bunch of dishes. How could I make it fun? Well, I could put on the music that really, makes it fun and dance while I'm doing that. I've got to work out today. Well, what kind of, can it be dancing? I mean, like and that's, maybe that's not fun for you. What, would swimming be what's fun for you? Ask yourself the questions and listen to the answers, but make sure it's a positive assumptive question. Because if you say, what do I need to do today? I got to work out. How can I make it fun? That positively assumes that you can make it fun, because I think you can. Even if it's that you've got a horrible business meeting to go to, and what you're going to think of in the back of your head is, while you're sitting there, you can be humming a song in the back of your head, or, you know what I'm saying? There's a way that you could make it fun. I can remember a meeting that we had to go to that I so very badly did not want to go to. I won't say what type of meeting it was, but there was a particular individual who would have the same phrase that they would say over and over again. And so my husband and I, it was just, we were dreading this so badly. And we had an agreement that we were going to count how many times the person said this phrase. And we had a bet that I said that this person was going to say it over 300 times within an hour and a half meeting. And he said, no, there's no way that I'm going to say 100. I was closer. And we enjoyed the meeting because every time they said it, instead of a nail in our heads, we were like, one. You know what I mean? And we were still present at the meeting. There is a way to make it fun. That's all I'm going to say. Find a way to make it fun. Okay. So I really don't want to wait much longer, because I know we've had her waiting in the wings, but we've got this big show for you today. Our very special guest this morning is one of my favorite people, Dina Kimmel. She is the founder of We Rock the Spectrum, and she's also the founder of a wonderful charity, My Brother Rocks the Spectrum. We don't get enough time ever to talk about that. So if you don't know about these gems, ooh, you got to find the one that's closest to you. Yeah. Let's let Dina in so that she can talk and that we can talk with her, because she's really fabulous. She's an amazing mom. I was saying this before, an amazing friend. She's just one of those powerful people that is fun and hilarious and you always want to be around. There she is. And she looks beautiful. How are you doing? How are you working that? So thrilled to have you with us this morning, Dina.
Thank you so much for having me. As always, you always look beautiful. I don't know.
You've got I look like a drowned rat today, but I do. This hair, I don't know what I'm doing with it, but whatever.
Quarantine dew, I love it.
I'm sorry?
It's the quarantine dew. I love it. I love it.
Oh, yes, there's that. So yeah, that's exactly. I keep cutting it off. Okay, so
I cut all the hair off. The quarantine.
But you have somebody professional come to your house. Is that correct?
Let me tell you something. During, like I said, when quarantine, I just was like we all are. Listen. I'm a businesswoman. I'm also a mom, and I needed something, to pick me up. And I found out that my hairdresser was only doing a select 5 people. And she said, I promised you. And she comes mass and everything. So I said, yep. Okay, come over and chop my hair off because I need to pick me up.
And I just go with a razor. And so I'm a crazy person. And my rationale was, well, nobody's going to see me anyway. And then my husband pointed out that we're doing 10 shows a week. Okay. I was like, oh, there's that. After I'd already shaved it, I was like, yeah, oh, that's right. Okay. But I really want to talk with you today because I say nice things about you behind your back. I think you're one of the smartest people I know, Dina.
Thank you.
And I think you're one of the smartest moms I know. And I think you're definitely one of the smartest business people I know. And you were in a business that was doing great service to the autism community, your kids' gyms. For people who've never heard of your kids' gym before, tell them a little bit about what the kids' gyms are.
Well, I feel now more proud than ever, I will tell you, to let the world know what We Rock the Spectrum is about. This pandemic has done so much, so much to the world in hardship with so many lives, lost. Really, but we as a brand, I feel like we truly can say we've done our part now. And We Rock the Spectrum Kids Gym, similar to, I was just listening to your story. Gabriel was diagnosed when he was 2 with autism spectrum disorder. He was diagnosed moderate to severe with sensory processing disorder. He just would run around the house, headbutting into everything. And, you remember those days, right? Yep. And I used to get so frustrated because I stayed home, for that year as a mom. And, I would be with him all day. All he did was cry. And all of a sudden Tim would come home and start roughhousing with them. And he was laughing. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. Okay. No mama, no dada. Dada comes home. He's happy. What am I doing? Okay. Let's do a switch. You stay home. And then, I didn't listen to my doctor. Okay. I had one of those doctors, as many of us parents do with kids with special abilities, who said, he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. He's not screaming. He's not hitting his head on the wall. He's just a normal boy. Well, I had a girl first, so it was much different for me. Sophia was talking at 1, and I'd always heard boys develop slower. So, okay, I was patient. And then all of a sudden he started putting his hands over his ears, at 12 months, 18 months. I didn't know anything about autism. I'll be the first to tell you, I watched Rain Man. I think that was just a dynamite movie, but that's all I knew. I mean, I really knew nothing else. I'd heard of Autism Speaks and thought it was a great organization. But then my life changed forever in 2009. And I thank God every day for it. But like you, I was in the trenches and didn't know what to do. Gabriel did not sleep, for almost 4 years. It was, I get what they do, in the war, and they sleep deprive, these incredible, soldiers and men, because that was us, and we were a mess. And one day I just said, that's it. And I contacted the regional center, even though my doctor told me not to. And hence now here we are today. He was diagnosed right away. I mean, I had the best, I don't know if you've heard of her, Trudy Maxwell. She was been around for a long time. And she came over, and it was interesting. She said, okay, so I see what's going on with your son. I know what he's got. This is what he's got. What's going on with your daughter over here? I'll never forget her saying that. And, I know that, your son is, an only child, but when you have siblings, we didn't realize in this diagnosis, and a big part of why We Rock the Spectrum was founded was also for my daughter. And I looked at her, I said, what do you mean? Well, is this a democracy in your house? Because she's ruling it. I said, oh my goodness. And I knew, I knew things were going on with Gabriel. I had started speech already before he was diagnosed. I started OT just again from my own intuition and doing my own research. And I'll never forget the first speech therapist that I went and saw with Gabriel. And she started working with him. And I said, I've been doing some research on autism. Do you think he has autism? And she said, I don't know. Do you think he has autism? And I said, bye. Okay, next. Okay, where's my next speech therapist? And I've had the same one for 10 years now, which her name is Laura Talkner. She's phenomenal. But I had the problem. I couldn't give my daughter what she needed. Not only were we not able to provide our son, what he needed for all the input, and OT is how much an hour?
Oh yeah, crazy expensive.
Anywhere from $135 to $150 an hour. So per her suggestion, she said, put some swings in your house. We did. Long story short, very quickly, my son and my daughter were beginning to play together, for the very first time. I would say 6 months after we had the equipment in our home, he hands me a bag of cookies, which a neurotypical mom is going to be like, so my daughter did that or my son did that at 1. Well, not our son. He couldn't make the connection. Let me go in the kitchen at 2.5 years old, grab the bag of cookies and hand it to mommy. That was huge. I mean, Tim and I, the tears, right? So once I saw this huge changes, and the big moment was he was 3.5. Okay, Gabriel, he's a big boy now at 13. But I couldn't get him out of his crib. He wouldn't get out of his crib. So at 3.5, he's still in his crib. And he was barely making approximations, and I knew he understood more, but he still was having a very difficult time, staying focused. And all of a sudden, it was in the middle of the night. And I look at Tim, I'm like, oh my God, someone's in Gabriel's room. Someone's in Gabriel's room. And I said, oh my God, get up. I'm scared. I don't want to go in there. So his room is connected to ours. And it was great because the owners before our home was, I guess, a paranoid family, and they had a door to go into, their child's room. So we went in there, we looked, there's our son, Shannon, running. I don't know if I ever even told you this, running back and forth in his crib going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. I mean, just belting out language. And I thought, oh my God, what the heck? And I called his OT therapist at 5 o'clock in the morning. She goes, I told you that it was going to get worse before it got better. Worse in the sense he's not going to sleep right away because with all of this OT, his brain's it's like firecrackers, going off. It's coming alive. It's like that movie, The Awakenings with Robin Williams, right? One of my favorite. And so we suffered for another 6 months. And then all of a sudden I put the equipment up and, I started working on the bolster swing with him, and boom, our lives, like I said, were changed. All of a sudden, our house, our home became the place to go. It was like, forget going to indoor playground areas because we were kicked out of at least 5 of them. And my poor daughter, she was the one who really suffered. So I said, you know what, I can't do this. Gabriel didn't know any better. For him, that's the beauty of autism at the young age. They forget, right? They forget. Now, that's a different story. He'll remember something back when he was in 1st grade, right? But I opened up the first We Rock the Spectrum really just as equally for both of them. One, to have a place that Gabriel could go and get the OT that he needed because we couldn't afford $150 an hour, 5 hours a day, because that's really what he needed. And so Sophia can feel included, come on, our gyms, so that it's, so the world knows, I'm sure if you haven't heard of We Rock the Spectrum, it's all specialized occupational therapy equipment. Carefully, picked out for all kids, not just for kids with sensory processing disorder, autism, ADHD, ADD, Down syndrome, MS. It's all kids of all abilities come in. Oops, excuse me 1 second there. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It happens.
That's the world. Excuse me 1 second, girls, if you can call my daughter. So that's the quarantine, right? The quarantine is she FaceTimes me 24/7.
There we go.
So we opened up We Rock, and I'll tell you, it did so much for my family. And I never had any intentions of sitting here today. When I first found out Gabriel had autism, I mean, you were and are still my idol. I said, oh my God, if I can get on that show, and I had my one location then, if I can get on my show and tell people about this. But, truthfully, 3 weeks after we opened, our gym was packed with people. I didn't realize that there was no indoor playground area, not for all kids. So, the long story short, here we are. I'm very excited to tell you, I think you know this already, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary, September 1st. Can you believe it? We had this whole big party, planned, and, that's been ixnayed, but, it's been great. We've been kind of just doing a flashback of the last 10 years on social media, and with my marketing team. It's been beautiful just to relive these memories. I mean, truly, you know, we are a kids gym for all kids. At least 30% of the kids that come into a We Rock the Spectrum, now we have 85 and counting locations. They have some form of, you know, need for sensory, and the rest are just neurotypical kids. You know, people, you know, some people who, I'll never forget my attorney. My attorney said to me, "Are you sure you want to call it We Rock the Spectrum?" So I said, why would I not want to call it We Rock the Spectrum Kids Gym? Well, you might be, you know, deterring the, you know, the typical crowd. And it was the best decision I ever made, obviously, because was thinking about, you know, Gabriel and Sophia's angels or my two angels. And I said, no, I want the world to know, you know, my husband is a musician. That's his, you know, his heart, in his heart. He does sound for TV and film. But he said, listen, if we're going to have a kid on the spectrum, we're going to rock it. We are going to rock it. Hence, We Rock the Spectrum Kids Gym, and how we got the name. But I look back now and I'm just, I have a different feeling about this mission now. I loved it, and I've had such passion all the way through. My franchise developers, they're like, God, Dina, you know, I love having you on, you know, these Zoom calls to meet candidates, but you don't shut up. And then you want to help their family, and you go on and talk about speech and this and that. But that's really what we do. And that's what all of my owners do. Okay. We support the community. We support the families with special abilities. We support the neurotypical families. And guess what? During these times, all of us need help. All of us need help, right? And that's what we've really that's really what we've seen. It's been truly amazing. Listen, I could talk all day on your show about We Rock the Spectrum, but there isn't anything like us. You know, there's other sensory gyms, and I'm proud of them. I'm proud that some, you know, other people are trying to come on board, especially the My Gyms. Now they have classes with kiddos on the spectrum. They kicked me out, okay? And I'll never forget when I became a franchise, okay? The CEO reached out to me. So I heard about your story, because I'm not shy. I'll say exactly, you know, or what organization, you know, kicked me out or was not, you know, was unkind. But I also have now continued to give them kudos, because they have stepped on board truly. And they refer us people to the gyms all the time. They've got their special needs classes. And I'm proud. I'm proud to be a part of that movement, because truly what you do and what we do together, this is a movement. This is a worldwide movement, what we're doing, right? Trying to cause, you know, to have that effect of autism awareness, of the awareness for our special needs kids. There's no difference. When you come into a We Rock the Spectrum, you don't know who has a special ability and who doesn't. They're all playing together, right?
Yeah. You know, now everybody knows why I love her so much. She's a ball of fire. And, you know, she's not just talk. I remember when I first met you and you just had the one gym, and it was just down the street. It was like a block away from our studio. And you came on and you were just thinking about going to 5 gyms. For me to hear that you're in the 80s now is crazy insane. What you have accomplished in a decade, Dina Kimmel, is a miracle. And it's a miracle for our community, and it goes way beyond your gyms. The events that I have been to, when you guys do your walk, and the different things that you guys do, you partnered with us to do the Sensitive Santas for the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, whatever it is. I'm just telling you guys, she's the real deal. So I adore you. They're saying, good for you, Dina, getting what you need to keep moving. And that is exactly what you do, is you keep moving. When COVID hit and you were told that you weren't an essential business and you had to shut everything down, you became essential. And now in our hour of most need, you have something new that I think is going to blow everybody's minds. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing at your gyms and what the opportunity is?
I'd absolutely love to. I always get chills when you talk, just, you know, the hair on my arm stand up.
I get chills when you talk.
Talk about the real deal. I'll tell you, the world is just so much of a better place because of you. So I need to tell you that. I mean, really, thank you.
Oh, that's really sweet. I sit in a room and talk. You sit in a room and get crap done.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, because I am like all of those, you know, other small businesses. I mean, just because we have 85 locations, well, of course, we're not charging, you know, our franchisees any royalties during this time. We're not, you know, no income has come in. I'm struggling just like the rest of you out there, small businesses. You know, we are a family-owned company. When I say family-owned, meaning my husband and I, we founded this, but I have my nephew who's our CSO. I have my cousin who's our community, manager, and the other members of our team have become my family. They are my family. They are my sisters, my brothers. And that's how we run this. And this is how we've stayed alive. We've shared tears in the last, almost 6 months together. We've shared laughter, frustrations, and it's been hard, but when I came up with the idea for the nonprofit to fund the first responders for the first 3 months that COVID hit, I felt like I had to. I said, I have to do something. I have to do something so the world knows really that we're going to continue on. I was scared that all the special needs families would have no hope. And what do you and I need? What do families with special needs kids need? They need hope. So do the typical communities. They do as well. But in May, I was thinking about it and I said, I bet you anything, schools are not going to go back. What are we going to do? What are parents going to do? So we've now been deemed essential and we've been able to stay open even after the nonprofit movement, but low capacity, of course, and taking care of the kiddos with special needs and their siblings. But what's going to happen next? What are we going to do? How are we going to help parents? And I said, you know what? Virtual learning and your favorite We Rock the Spectrum. Let's do it. Let's do it. Our kiddos need the sensory play. I'm sorry, but the cost of a babysitter now is, I don't know about where you are, but it's at least $15 an hour. Okay, for us, you have a kiddo on the spectrum, you're talking about $22 an hour. That's what these respite workers charge. And not all of these state-funded programs like the regional center and such, they're not covering us anymore for what we need as parents, definitely not to work. So this is our setup, okay, and this is worldwide. And I'm so proud and so excited because it is taking off like wildflower. I got Grace here in the office here with me, and she's been managing the phone because I've just wanted the girls inside the gym, which I'm pointing over here because this right now, I've never come to you live in my corporate office here, but we are. You can see that We Rock the Spectrum world behind me. But she's been managing the phones because the phone is ringing nonstop. Oh my God, I've got to go back to work. What do I do? Well, guess what? We're setting up cubbies, okay? We're only allowing X amount of kids, depending on the size of the location, no more than 10. And they have to bring their headphones, they bring their computer, and we are doing their virtual learning and at-home school, and We Rock the Spectrum. Unbelievable, okay?
It's an answer to a prayer for a lot of families. I mean, I got to tell you, it's the number one question. People are like, I don't know how is my life supposed to work? Work wants me to work, and more work is saying that they will not allow you to do your job from home if you are being the caretaker of your children, even if they're going to school. There are people like their school teachers are being told you can't teach if you're also taking care of your kids and doing their school program at home. What on earth are they supposed to do?
That's exactly right.
And as a group of people, we have to solve this together. And people are calling me and saying, I don't know what to do. And, I think there's a good reason why your phone is ringing off the hook, because people need this now.
It's
now.
Really, I'm grateful. Listen, we, as my mom used to say, you throw some spaghetti on the wall and, some's going to stick and some's not. I knew that this was going to help. Listen, we're here. We just want to do everything we can. I got a text message from an owner in New Jersey, and I'll get emotional. This is emotional time. So forgive me if I'm emotional this morning with you, but when I was reading, and she's like, yeah, we're doing great, with our program, we're booked up. She said that just was announced in New Jersey, schools are not going back for at least a couple more months. I mean, for us here, we're both in Los Angeles County, we're talking at least January probably. And my kids are at home now doing, the virtual learning, but it's hard. You just heard my computer. That's my daughter. My daughter now, because of COVID, has severe anxiety. Okay, severe anxiety. She's calling me, I don't know, at least a couple times an hour. She's FaceTiming me. How are you? How are you? I'm having separation anxiety. My son, gratefully, I'm able to afford support for him. So the support for him could not come in home, not for 5 months. One of his behaviorists is the wife of a doctor at Cedars-Sinai, and she's like, I can't come in. Just recently, the last couple of weeks, they've come back in. So I'm lucky that I'm covered. But you know what? 98% of the rest of the world doesn't have this. But I was reading her, we were text messaging back and forth, and her words, it's resonated with me.
This is the New Jersey owner?
The New Jersey owner. She said, I just want to be here for these families. I just want to do everything I can for them, Dina. And, her name is Pip, and I have to do a shout out to her because it's incredible. She really is, she's an incredible leader. She's an incredible owner. and a regional training facility. Actually, she became a regional training facility 8 months after becoming on board. And that's because, again, like I said, she has those leadership qualities. But the state of New Jersey has a great program. You know, they have the funding there for this. Australia, let me talk to you about Australia. Okay, so since we've spoken last, four more locations opened up there. Can you imagine? Now we have 5 gyms, okay, in Australia, and their state funded program pays for all of the virtual learning in a We Rock the Spectrum, all of it, okay? The private facility hire, right? In any of our We Rocks, you can rent the gym for 90 minutes, $90 here in the States. For them, you know, I think it's $100 the difference, but their state program pays for all of it. So this is what's happening now. Insurance companies, we're making our We Rockers blow up their phone. Look, we can't get the OT. They're not coming to our house. You need to pay for We Rock the Spectrum. So I want to get the point out there today that we are here for you, but also be proactive, because some people can't afford this program. But we have to, of course, have the expense of hiring a teacher. We have a teacher there, right? And of course, we're not teaching the class because each kiddo has a different curriculum. But we've got, for example, our, I just so happen to have one here. We've got our clipboards, okay, our teachers, and they've got each kiddo's schedule. Okay, you know what, Sammy, you're supposed to be in, you know, their second class, it's English, come on, click on this button. So they're gonna be there to help facilitate this. So,
but when they have breaks, then they can have some time in the gym, which is what everyone needs. We've been preaching here on the show, and we've got much more coming with this, about whenever there is a break, your kiddo has to have something physical, sensory going on that is not screen time, or we're not going to make it.
Can I pull out my hair? I mean, Gabriel, you know, I'm sure you've heard of this game, Fortnite. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden I hear him yelling from the other room. I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing. It's my game. I said, you know what, Gabriel? Guess what? We're cutting the screen time. Let's get out. Let's get moving. But we've got a huge heat wave here, right? A huge heat wave. Okay, 105. I think it's going to be again today. So really, I want to encourage, you know, those of you, if you can't think you can afford the, you know, the virtual learning in a We Rock the Spectrum, we have our nonprofit. We're continuing to, you know, raise funds for families who cannot afford it. But we're here for you. You know, if you can't afford the full program, we make it work for you. Okay, you want to come in just 3 hours a day because you're off early that day? Great. Again, it's not this, that's the beauty of We Rock the Spectrum, is we follow the autism or the special needs diagnosis. Okay, no kiddo, no family is the same. So we will create this program around your family. And that's what all of our owners have done across the world. And I personally, I couldn't be more proud. And I'm just relieved. I mean, these families are like, thank God. Oh my God. What we do.
No, it's the answer to a prayer. So before we get any further, if somebody is interested in this and they're watching the show and they're like, oh my gosh, I so needed this. Where do they want to go to first? They want to find the closest gym to them, right? So tell us what the website is where we go to find the locations of your gyms.
So I recommend that you go to, well, depending upon, you know, your city, it's better just to go on the franchise site, which is www.wrtsfranchise.com. Click on locations, boom. Click on locations. If you're not in this country, click on Cairo, Egypt, click on Malaysia, click on Australia, Canada. I mean, we're here in 8 countries now, and I'm also really excited to tell you some exciting news. Just 2 days ago, we got in a contract with a new area of developer, and they're going to be bringing on, they're opening, actually going under construction right now in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, but also going to be opening up another 14 locations within the next 24 months across the world as well.
Amazing.
So, yeah, so
amazing.
Thank God.
So look and see what's close to you, and then once you see what's close to you, they should reach out to that individual gym to sign up.
Call the gym, or they can email them. Our gym owners, they'll get back to you right away. If you have any problem contacting, okay, your local WRTS, please call corporate office. It's 818-996-6620, okay? If you forget.
Say that again slowly for everybody.
818-996-6620. And if you don't get a hold of someone, please leave a message or email us. All you do is click on the info at email address, and it'll take you right to us, and someone will get back to you right away in the corporate office. I mean, I just
Yeah.
want to I'm sorry, Shannon, do a quick
Oh, no.
shout out to my team here. We Rock would not be still going on, okay, because of, well, everything. Okay, I rely on my team. I'm only as good as the foundation I have in here. I have my East Coast office, okay, in Boca Raton, Gail Field. She's my COO. Her husband, John, is in there running, okay, our location out there. Both of her kids work for We Rock. One of them is an audit compliance manager. No, we can't fly out to locations, but we are Zooming them and making sure everything is to code. Her and her daughter, and we've got all of my team here. You know, I can, seriously, I can't be more grateful for them. We are here doing what we're doing because of the foundation of this corporate team. So I'm sorry, I did need to do a shout out for all of them.
No, and I gotta say too, you have some of the funnest people on the face of the planet working for you. They have a good time. Our theme this week is, if it's not fun, what's the point? And I think you make it fun, and they're fun people. I think you attract fun people to you, but they're all type A, get it done, impressive. I enjoy working with your folks anytime. But somebody did write in and said, our closest gym is 30+ minutes away. I hope another one will be opening in Pennsylvania. And maybe, Dina, you could talk a little bit, because I know we all hope that things will open up around us and that we'll just be able to go to them. But sometimes you're the person that's supposed to open it.
That's exactly, you know, and that's exactly right. And you know what? You know, any smart franchise will be doing what we're doing. And we are giving a special deal to people who come on board. We just announced 2 owners a couple months ago. You know, if you're going to be brave and you're going to do what we're doing, actually, we've had people who've owned businesses, and sadly for them, restaurants, okay, other, you know, video game places, and they're going under. So they're looking to business that survived the pandemic, that's surviving during this time, okay, of quarantining. And that is, you know, we rock the spectrum. So yes, be brave, call us. You are that person. You can be that person. You know, we are looking for like-minded individuals. So if you need to be able to relate to the special needs community. If you are a family like that, then yes, go on our franchise site. But I want to tell you something regarding Pennsylvania. I'm not sure where they're at, if they're closest to the Northeast Philadelphia area or the Harrisburg, but just reach out and let us know, and we'll keep you posted. But the inquiries are coming in. I mean, it's,
oh, I'm sure.
Well, for, you know, the first 2 months they didn't. Everyone was in a freak out, and we're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to us? Are we going to?
But everybody, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but everybody thought it was going to end, right? Nobody thought, like, was like, oh, we'll just, I heard people were like, well, I'm just going to count this as a vacation that I didn't know I was going to get. And then we'll just all come back online in 4 weeks. And then it was 6 weeks. Then it was, so I think that was it. But I think people got hip to the fact that this is not going to be over overnight. And then everybody is in survival mode now.
Yep. That's exactly.
And, you know, so, but I've always said that Dina started We Rock the Spectrum 10 years ago, and it's almost, we're coming up on the 10th, and I was already doing a radio show, but we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of when we were starting what this became, Autism Live.
Oh,
And if the timeline had been anything different, I can tell you I would be a franchise owner, because I was looking for how I need to be able to have a job that brings money in, that I can spend time with my child and be in a place where I'm helping other people. I mean, I had made a list of I want to be doing something that does this, and this. And I needed it to be something where my son would have opportunities to grow with me on whatever I was doing. And we just missed each other. Dr. Granpichet got to me first. Otherwise,
I would love to have you, but thank God you're doing what you're doing. I mean,
well, but I'm just saying to families out there, if you're like that, if you're like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I've seen some amazing families start gyms with Dina, and eventually their kids start working at the gym. It's a built-in
my
job.
daughter. And let me tell you something, you know, I've got Grace and Tyler here sitting behind me, probably hiding, my project managers. And now Grace has an almost 5-year-old. She now has a 10-month-old baby, and they're across the street. They're across the street growing up in this, you know, fun, inclusive environment. And her kids, you know, are not on the spectrum, but they are learning about compassion, about kindness. And truly, I feel like as a nation, as a world, and this is where I get emotional, because of course, our election coming up, that is what we need. And that is what I am proud, okay, as a brand that we are part of. But this is, again, it's a business, as you said, that you can raise your family in. You don't need to pay for babysitting. I mean, I opened this because I wanted to be there for every single bit of therapy for Gabriel. That's why I wanted to be there, okay? And I sold my clothing stores of 17 years. And, who would have thought? Oh, yeah, Sophia, she tells me who to fire, who to hire. My daughter's over there. She's texting me. She's watching Grace's baby, my baby, who was 5 when I started, now 16, okay, is watching Grace's 10-month-old baby over there in the gym. Little Leilani, who's now, she's going to be 3 years old soon. Tyler, I know you've met all of them. And I think, oh, my goodness, but the values that my kids have received, it's irreplaceable. It is. So yes, don't think that, oh my gosh, how am I going to have a job or have a business? You can have a business that includes your children. And that's We Rock.
And you would go to that same website, the WRTSfranchise.com. Now that person wrote back in and said they're in Northeast Philly, and they said, I just reached out to see what they are providing as services. Now we're starting to run low on time here, so let's go through that really quickly. So there is the school distance learning plan that you can do if you're needing to be someplace else and your child needs to be in distance learning. You can absolutely do that at your We Rock the Spectrums, but there are other services that you are offering right now. Talk about those.
Yes.
Dina.
So we're offering low capacity open play, which is up to 5 children. Okay. Again, we have a very, very strict protocol for sanitization. We use I'd say higher than hospital grade product. It kills COVID. Okay. And knock on wood, it's now, what's the date today? Mid-August. Okay. And this all started in mid-March. We've not had one outbreak of a child getting COVID. And I am very, very proud of that. And let's face it, we could still be doing everything and doing it right, and it can still happen. But the system, that we have with the temperature taking, the masks, the shields, the gloves that our team is doing, it's very important. And we've realized, and we've been grateful because we did the nonprofit movement, which was never my intentions, classified as essential. We can do the low capacity open play because we do it safely. And we also can do low capacity birthday parties. So many kiddos are just crushed. Oh my God, where's my party? So no, you can't invite your 40 people. Okay, that like you did before, but it's up to 10. We're keeping with CDC guidelines. It's up to 10 kiddos and you can come in, and the prices are like cut in half. We're cutting the prices for that. And again, I want to make sure that anyone out there, so the low capacity, the private facility hire also, and that is you rent the gym for just you and your family, and that's taken off huge. And that was just a lifesaver for so many families, all families, but especially the special needs. They need it. They need to be on the equipment. In the state of Florida, Gail Field, my COO, she has not had she didn't have any therapy for over 4 months for her kiddo. Okay, for over 4 months. And the regressions, I'm sure you're hearing it, right? Having to support people. So just know that we are here in every way across the spectrum, which is not just having a facility to get your yayas out, as Shannon Penrod loves to say, but also just for support, okay? We're a phone call away. If you can't get to the gym, we're also here for emotional support as well.
So We Rock the Spectrum is also on Facebook. And you have some videos on YouTube too, because you have a music video.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, exactly. Get your re-rock moves on. We're mailing out T-shirts to those families who send in their best moves. Okay, to the Re-Rock the Spectrum, song. So send them in, do the moves. Okay, it's been so much fun. Oh yeah, we have a whole huge YouTube channel as well, and then we also have our support system through Rocking the Spectrum. We got 3 minutes. Talk about Rocking the Spectrum. Well, Rocking the Spectrum is something that you and I, had spoken about a couple years ago. And, when you first get that diagnosis, it's overwhelming. Okay. You don't know what to do. And when I had the diagnosis, when you did, we had to go to several different places to find out, all the information we need. Rocking the Spectrum is a video library of videos that I've done with an incredible team. Interviewed the lovely you, on one as well. Yes. And their support videos, everything from A to Z. So you see the alphabet, and there are videos on what to do with eating, with sleeping, with, natural, form therapies, from medicines to really have consulted with the top, the top of the top. And I also just talk about, me and what I'm doing day to day. And if that helps one person, okay, then I'm happy. But it is a space where you can go, you can email in. I also do live one-on-ones right now because of COVID. The membership's free. Okay, you can go on there, get on there, view those video libraries. I do the Mama D's motivational minutes, and I say, okay, today we're going to talk about doing something fun. I know it's hot outside, so you know what? Let's do something fun. Let's do some fun dancing, okay, with the kids. Okay, if you're vacuuming the house, okay, put on your bathing suit. Let's vacuum, do a video, okay, do a TikTok. So, you know, these motivate, you know, anything just to motivate people out there to keep going during this time, okay, is very important. But during the whole avenue of having a diagnosis, you know, with a child, you need a cheerleader. You need someone in your corner. And I'm excited to be one of, you know, this incredible group of people out there doing what you and I are doing as well to help.
How can they get on the site? Where do they go? What's the website?
So that's Rocking the Spectrum with DinaKimmel.com.
So it's Rocking the Spectrum with DinaKimmel.com. Okay.
Yes.
And that's the only place that you can see the interview that Dina did with me, which was hilarious and so much fun.
Yeah, so much fun.
I only have a minute left here, but I cannot leave this conversation without saying this. You mentioned your husband, who's a great dad, and that he does sound for some television things. And I shared with Dina the other day that in our COVID madness, in the binge watching of the things that we are doing, we are finally watching Game of Thrones. And I have had the opportunity, when I came and did the interview, you let me hold your husband's Emmy that he won for doing the sound for Game of Thrones. I just need for you to go back and tell him that I have a new appreciation for him and what he does, because he should have won Emmys for that. Like, the sound is a character. Even last night we were watching something, and at a certain point we paused it. We were like, where did they get that sound? Like we have questions for, like, it's so, he did such an amazing job. You have to tell him that we are humbled and awed by his work.
I will tell him, and let me tell you something. I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. He's working on now the show of, it's oh my God, Lovecraft
Scary.
Country, the Lovecraft Country. It just aired. Oh my gosh, is it incredible? But I'll tell you something. I'm sure a lot of, you know, your viewers out there have seen, this is the times where you've really had to rely on your significant other, you know, for support. And I don't know about you, but I am so honored that my husband chose me and that we chose each other, because without him, I would never be sitting here talking to you today. So I'm doing a big shout out to my hubby out there. We Rock still exists because of you, Tim Kimmel. So thank you to him. And I will tell him about the Game of Thrones.
He's a mensch. He's a mensch.
He's a mensch, as is yours. Okay, Mr. Santa Claus.
No, I listen, I freely say, you know, they say with autism that, you know, the couples either grow apart or they grow together. And we were taught to be the letter A, that you're supposed to be the letter H when you're married, but when you have a special needs child, be the letter A and put your heads together and get together. And this COVID madness, every day I am grateful that I'm married. Somebody asked me the other day, say 3 words if you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self. And I said, marry Jim Miller, because it's like the best thing I ever did, right? So we are lucky. We got very, very lucky. So we're hanging on to them. Please give him our best.
And yours. And, you know, be sure and share with the viewers soon. Maybe we'll do that another round. But about that, we are still continuing on our Sensitive Santa.
Yes, we'll have news about that. We just had a meeting about it the other day, and Dina's a mad genius. And so we are going to manage to have Sensitive Santa in a very unique and special way this year, because she's so awesome. So we're totally out of time. I love you, and I love what you do, and I'm so honored to call you friends, and I mean that sincerely.
Right back.
Check out all the stuff that she has. Go to WRTS, which stands for We Rock the Spectrum, franchise.com. Check it all out. Get a franchise, or get your kiddos there for some free play, or talk to them about distance learning and how it can help you and your kiddo. Dina, I love you. Give your whole team a hug, and your kiddos especially, okay?
Absolutely. Say hi, everyone.
Hi. I love that team.
Shane, everyone. Yes.
I love that team.
We're a family. Thank you so much, Shannon, for everything that you do. We adore you.
Thank you. We adore you right back. Okay, you guys, we're well past time. I got to say goodbye for today. Tomorrow, remember, we got an oldie but a goodie. I'll be back on Monday. You are not going to believe next week. It is off the chain. We've got Bonnie Yates on Monday, but we also have the folks from Spectrum Laboratory. They've got some big news for us. It's ginormous. Then we got Dr. Granpichet, who's going to be with us. We have Temple Grandin with us on Tuesday. And on Thursday, we have award-winning comic and actor Jay Moore is going to be joining us live on Thursday. Stop, get out. It's fabulous. You're not going to believe it. So big, big, big week next week, plus lots of news about how we get back to school. I'm late. I got to go to a meeting, but thank you for being here, and thank you to Dina Kimmel. I'll see you guys on Monday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.